All right, hey everyone, it is Saturday afternoon. We're just getting our live stream up and running, so bear with us for just a second while I click a few more things. And we'll start things in earnest this afternoon. Just clicking a few things here and we'll be ready to go. All right, it's Saturday afternoon, and I'm Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here, and off camera is meteorologist Gavin Sandell back there in the back, and he'll be chiming in on occasion this afternoon. We're getting this live stream up and running, even though we don't have any severe weather ongoing right now in our viewing area. It'll be possible that severe weather will transpire over the next couple of hours. This is going to be a pretty quick-hitting event for us. The window of severe weather opening up here probably before the 1 o'clock hour is through, and then we should be out of the woods pretty much by 3:30 or 4 at the latest. Current radar across the television viewing area. A couple of showers around, including one in Columbiana and out towards western Mahoning County as well. Right now, the only thing that is pretty interesting off to our west is this cell that's been perking up in Geauga County, right over Hiram right now, and this has perhaps some small hail with it, and there's been an increase in lightning with it as well. No rotation evident right now on the radar, but that's something we'll be watching as it continues heading through northern Portage, southern Geauga County, and then eventually into kind of the western and northwestern part of Trumbull County. So heads up if you're watching from, anywhere north and west of Warren primarily. This storm may impact you here in the next 20 to 25 minutes or so. Elsewhere, off to our west, everything's pretty unimpressive right now. Nothing to write home about in terms of big lightning strikes. Any big hailstones are not obvious from any of these storms right now. It's generous to even call them storms. We have heavy showers moving through Tuscarawas County right now, down towards New Philly and down towards Uhrichsville and places like that. A couple of additional lines here, but all of this is sub-severe right now and fairly unimpressive. The one exception to that is, again, this cell up in northeastern Portage, southeastern Geauga, and getting set to impact maybe Southington up to Farmington, Mesopotamia, as well as we head deeper into the 1 o'clock hour. But we are just getting started with this, so even though nothing is all that super impressive right now, all this activity is heading into a more favorable environment for severe weather this afternoon. When we say that, what we mean basically is the atmosphere is more unstable. It's like May today. I mean, we're flirting with record highs today. Temperatures are in the 70s. It was in the 70s even before the morning was through in a lot of places. The dew points by early March standards are elevated as well. Now, it's not super humid like it would be in the summertime in June and July, but the dew points are high enough that it's aiding in the instability. We also have a lot of wind energy aloft, wind shear, changing of the wind direction, and especially today the wind speed with height through the atmosphere. Wind shear combined with sufficient instability can sometimes create storms that have a tendency to rotate. So we're getting our live stream up and running on this Saturday afternoon in anticipation that it's going to be a pretty busy couple of hours. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you're just joining us, we just started a couple of minutes ago, and I'm Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm along with Gavin Sandell back there in the back. Gavin, a real trooper today after working the morning shift and being here since the wee hours of the morning, is staying with us this afternoon to help out in our coverage. And we were talking before we started the live stream this afternoon. It's been a while since we've done this. Last year our severe weather season ended pretty abruptly as the drought set in during the summer. We had a pretty active and pretty wet period late in the spring, very early in the summer season last year. But once we got into July and then especially into August and September, not only did we not have much severe weather, but we just didn't have much rain at all from mid to late summer right through parts of the fall. So it's been, a good at least half a year or so since we've had a legit higher end severe weather threat in our part of the country. And the overall threats today, again, over the next few hours, I think at the latest 4:30 is when we will still have a threat for some strong damaging winds and perhaps isolated tornadoes. The risks are definitely highest of damaging wind gusts, but as I mentioned, with the wind shear that we have today, we certainly can't rule out an isolated tornado. And hail is, it's a smaller threat. There might be some small hailstones, but big hailstones, severe hailstones, don't seem all that likely at this point, but it's something we can't rule out either. I mentioned the tornado risk, and even though the numbers are still pretty small, this is these are things we have to pay attention to when we're talking about a risk of a tornado. The brown or tan color in eastern Ohio and western PA, that's a 5% risk of a tornado today. And because not only do we have a 5% risk, but also the risk is a little heightened today of significant tornadoes. Where we have these dashed black lines on the screen, that means the Storm Prediction Center is highlighting our area for not only a risk of just tornadoes in general, but also a somewhat elevated risk of not just an EF0, but perhaps a more significant tornado. That's certainly no guarantee that this is going to happen today, but the risk is a little more elevated when you have a setup like we have today. No watches are out just yet. There probably will be one issued soon, either a severe thunderstorm watch or a tornado watch. I would expect all of eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania to be put under some sort of watch here before the 1 o'clock hour is through. But as of 1:09, we are not currently under any watches, and no warnings in our local viewing area as well. If you watch my daily weather for Weather Geeks videos, I mentioned this on last evening's video that we're heading into the time of the year that the number of days in which we have thunderstorms tends to jump up. The more significant jumps happen between March and April, and then especially April to May. But even from February to March, we see an uptick in the days with thunderstorms. Now that the core winter months are over with, we can see more and more days like today with not only thunderstorms, but severe weather risks as well. And today being the 7th day of March, it's pretty early in the season, but it's certainly not unheard of to have a day like today, this early in the season. Also been mentioning this on my social media and on Weather for Weather Geeks over the last couple of days. What does it mean to be in a level 2 risk of severe weather? We often show these risk categories, and these are put out by the Storm Prediction Center, which is part of the National Weather Service. And we display them to our audience, especially when we agree with those outlooks. Now, we have deviated from their terminology and their color scheme a little bit, but the overall sentiment, is generally about the same between us and from the Storm Prediction Center. And today's level 2 risk on a 1 to 5 scale is something we see 20 to 25 times per year on average. Some years more, some years less. Once we get above level 2, level 3 and higher, that becomes something that's much more rare for our part of the country. But we're in level 1s and level 2s with a fair amount of frequency from about March and especially from April onwards through at least midsummer. Usually a level 2 risk means that there is some tornadic potential, and there's a higher confidence than a level 1, certainly, of hail-producing storms and gusty winds and damaging winds, perhaps. Once you get up to level 3 and higher, that means that all these risks are higher, more significant, if you will. And thankfully, in our part of the country, level 3 and higher is pretty rare. 1 to 3 times per year for us, level 3 and higher. Once you get to level 4, level 5, that's very rare around here. Much more common in parts of the Deep South, Alabama, Mississippi, places like that, and then out into kind of the more traditional tornado alley, out into Oklahoma and Kansas and northern Texas as well. All right, so again, thanks to everyone for joining us. It is 1:12. We're just getting started with our coverage this afternoon. We're streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as the Storm Tracker 21 and 21 News apps, WFMJ.com as well. If you are a user of our website, we always appreciate that, and we appreciate your patience with our website. It's been, over the last few months, it's seen its better days. We've had some infrastructure problems, if you will, with our website, some incorrect forecast data on our website, WFMJ.com/weather. But don't worry, the Storm Tracker 21 app is working like a champ, and our updated forecasts that are correct, at least they're the forecasts that we intend to put out. Those are still on the Storm Tracker 21 app. It's just on our website, WFMJ.com. Things have been a little bit shaky for the last couple of months, but that looks to be rectified before March is through, as our infrastructure problems should be corrected. All right, so again, everything is sub-severe across northern Ohio right now, with and everything is not particularly interesting at the moment, with the exception of this one cell right up here that is entering the northwestern part of Trumbull County. So from about Southington up to Farmington, we've got a pretty good downpour with some lightning and thunder. There might be some small hailstones embedded in this as well. I don't see anything real large happening, but you might be seeing some small hailstones. This is northwest of Warren. It looks like it's going to miss the Warren area and clip the northwestern and northern part of Trumbull County and then head up into Ashtabula County. Again, this is likely sub-severe right now, but it is the kind of the perkiest, if you will, thunderstorm that we have in our general vicinity. There's only one other warning in all of Ohio right now, and it's southeast of Columbus. There's probably some hail with this guy down here, southeast of Columbus. That warning out until 1:30, but that particular cell was way too far to the south to be much of a concern for us right now. We've got a couple of heavier showers in Tuscarawas County from New Cumberstown up to New Philly and Dover, and rolling up I-77. A couple of fairly innocuous showers also just northwest of Canton over towards the Worcester area, and also a few lightning strikes and a few showers Kent, Ravenna, heading over towards Akron. But again, the more interesting shower and thunderstorm certainly is right here in northwestern Trumbull County. So Route 534, Route 88. Heads up if you're closer to Route 45 in northern Trumbull County. This is going to clip you from Bristol up towards the Ashtabula line, so closer to Route 87 and then up into Ashtabula County. Pretty good downpour with this as well. So Gavin, they haven't put out a watch just yet.
No, but I've heard word that they have been talking to the SPC, Pittsburgh WFO, that they might issue a watch for most of the coverage area.
And they put that at 80%, the chance that they're going to issue a watch?
Yes.
Okay. So our graphic here hasn't been updated in terms of the percentage, but the area that is drawn here is correct. They're thinking of issuing some sort of watch, a severe thunderstorm watch or tornado watch, for just about all of eastern Ohio, western PA. Pretty good chance that that issuance will come probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. As is often the case when they have to issue a big watch, a watch that is going to cover a big geographical area, a lot of times they'll have that watch out for many hours after the threat will truly be over in parts of that watch box, and then they, piecemeal, they start discontinuing parts of the watch. So it's not going to be surprising to me if we're under some sort of watch, a severe thunderstorm watch or tornado watch, until something like maybe 7 p.m. or something this evening. But I think the true severe weather risk here locally will probably be over with by 4 or 4:30 or so. The reason why I say that, there's a lot of model data to suggest that, and here's just one model that we look at. This is what we call the HRR, HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. And I'm going to stop this right around when we think the peak risks will be for severe weather, 3 as late as 4:30, and then after that, our cold front won't pass the area until this evening. And so until that front comes through, we'll be fair game to see some showers this evening. But the true severe weather threat, I think, is long gone as we go into the evening. Some gusty showers, perhaps, but no more threats of anything more significant than that with our actual front coming our way this evening. So our front probably comes through 8, 9, 10 o'clock, some showers with that. That should be about it for the night. And actually, we have a much better afternoon coming up on Sunday. It's not going to be as warm as today, but the sun will be out. Monday looks great as well. A couple of really nice afternoons coming up Sunday and into Monday. All right, so again, just to recap, I know, it's on these live streams, even though it's been a long time since we've done one, I know people hop in and out, and there's nothing all that interesting happening right now, but thanks to all who are joining us. I'm Eric Wilhelm. I'm the chief meteorologist here at WFMJ, and with me, meteorologist Gavin Sandell, who worked the morning shift this morning and is foregoing a little nap time this afternoon to help us out with our coverage. He is off screen, but he is chipping in whenever he can, finding anything interesting that I might not be seeing as I take the lead on our live coverage this afternoon. A couple of showers around Interstate 80, nothing all that significant around Youngstown up to Wethersfield, Lordstown, Austintown as well. More significant downpours from Southington on north. Farmington, West Farmington, getting hit pretty hard right now. But again, this looks largely sub-severe. You might have a few hailstones with this. Don't see anything all that significant. Probably some peas, maybe up to maybe penny-size hail, right around West Farmington, right kind of in the core of this storm. I wouldn't be surprised if we have some hailstones falling out of this right now, and certainly some gusty winds, likely sub-severe winds, but some gusty winds nonetheless. Don't see any evidence right now that there's rotation with this. But this is one of those days with kind of wind shear that we have overhead today. We've got to watch everything pretty carefully. We're going to be keeping our eyes glued to all of our radar sources, including the one I'm showing you on screen right now. I've also got some radar sources off screen that I'm checking on occasion, just to have different things in my line of sight here. Never want to miss anything, especially on a day like today where the potential is there for anything to get pretty rowdy in a pretty big hurry this afternoon. So just going to real quickly check the most latest run of our high resolution modeling. And Gavin and I were talking before we launched the live stream of the last run or two of our most high resolution modeling. Kind of unimpressive, to be honest. Much more unimpressive than earlier today. And Gavin, I'm looking at the 17Z, in other words, the latest run of the high resolution modeling, and it doesn't have as big of a look. It doesn't have as significant of a threat as it certainly showed earlier on today.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Yeah, 16Z, at least the hour before what you showed me off screen, certainly didn't give the best outputs there. But we are starting to see a lot more returns on the radar. But I mean, one thing that I do want to bring up, I mean, this is coming with some record heat. We just tied our record at the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport today. 74 degrees as of the last observation. That ties a daily record that was set 43 years ago, I believe, 1983.
Yeah, and just how unusual these temperatures are. These are temperatures more typical of late May rather than early March. So we could be flirting with records a couple more times before this warm stretch is through during the middle of the upcoming work week. So yeah, it's warm. It's even a little bit humid. Now, we're not going to mistake this for a July day in terms of the dew points and the humidity, but the dew points are elevated. And with these temperatures in the mid-70s, I went for a run this morning and worked up quite a sweat. Something it wasn't that long ago that I had to do all my runs on the treadmill inside because it was too cold to run outside. But all of a sudden, just like that, we're into a much more typical late spring kind of a setup. And look at that temperature down in Pittsburgh, 77. Wheeling's at 77. Now, where the rain-cooled air is, where the showers have already passed through. Now it's still way above average, but you can see where it's already rained today from Cleveland and Mansfield and Columbus on north and west. It's simply not as warm, and it's the dew points are starting to come down in the wake of our front as well off to our north and west, especially once you get out towards Toledo and Detroit. Locally, our dew points are rising into the upper 50s, even a few lower 60s. The dew point up in Cleveland, 66 degrees. The dew point in Akron, 62 degrees. This is pretty impressive stuff for this time of the year. These dew points would be nothing all that significant once we get into May and certainly into the summer. But a 62 in Akron and 66 in Cleveland, and it's pretty muggy for this early in the season. So again, we don't have any warnings here locally as of right now. A couple of warnings southeast of Columbus. Some hail-producing storms likely down there. We'll take a peek at those real quickly, and there's a couple of our severe thunderstorm warning polygons. And as we get into severe weather season, just a couple of reminders that, and this has been the case for well over a decade at this point, the Weather Service issues severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, flash flood warnings in kind of these weird shapes sometimes. We call them polygons. Before, I think it was 2007, 2008, entire counties were put under warnings. That has not been the case now for a good 17, 18 years. They also issue in the winter snow squall warnings in polygon shapes, different shapes just depending on the individual storm. So that's why these boxes look a little weird. The other thing that's a little bit weird sometimes is you can tell this polygon is right on the edge of Wilmington, Ohio's area of jurisdiction and Pittsburgh's, because you can see how funky looking this the eastern edge of this warning polygon is. That's because Pittsburgh's area starts with this county right here. And so Wilmington, Ohio, issued these warnings for the counties they cover, but downstream of that, Pittsburgh has not issued a warning just yet for the next county over. That's why that looks a little strange. All right, so we've got a severe thunderstorm warning just issued for Trumbull County, our first one of the day in our viewing area. And there it is right there. It's in effect until 2 o'clock, so it's 1:22, so this warning runs for about 38 minutes. It includes the northern part of Trumbull County. So again, as I was just mentioning about these shapes of these warnings, the entire county of Trumbull is not in the severe thunderstorm warning. If you're watching us from anywhere close to the Mahoning County line, you're not under the severe thunderstorm warning, but it is in this kind of orange box from roughly Bristol and Farmington and Mecca and Johnston, north side of Cortland, over towards the fairgrounds, and points north up into Ashtabula County. Severe thunderstorm warning runs until 2 o'clock this afternoon. I've been watching, kind of the attributes with this storm to look for any signs of rotation and any hail perhaps, and I do think this is likely producing some hail and some gusty winds. When I kind of bring up our hail algorithm here, it's probably not going to show much, and it's always a few minutes behind. So this hail is probably more over towards Mecca and the north end of Mosquito Lake right now. But that's pretty small hail. It's probably largely under an inch, but it's it's something that is out there. Probably at least some small hail. And they just issued the watch, I believe, and it is a tornado watch. All right, so let's zoom out and take a look at this watch.
5 of our counties.
All right, so you're going to see the northern Ohio counties being filled in eventually here, but even though Mahoning and Trumbull are not shown in the watch just yet, that's probably going to change because it is in effect for everyone, Gavin? Is that right?
All 5 of our counties.
Okay.
Ashtabula County,
All right.
Erie, Crawford.
The Storm Prediction Center issues these watches, and then the local weather service offices issue the county by county, breakdown. And so you're going to see the red colors start to envelop more of northwestern PA and northeast Ohio here momentarily. But yeah, tornado watch, and what time is this out until?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. As I mentioned, this watch is going to run until 8, and you can see how much of a geographical area this watch is going to cover. Now, 8 o'clock may be fine once you get down into central PA and down into parts of central and eastern West Virginia, but 8's going to be way too long into the future for this watch in most of our viewing area and certainly off to our north. And they'll start canceling parts of this watch as the severe weather threat ends this afternoon. But again, tornado watch technically out until 8 p.m. now for our entire viewing area. Again, the entire viewing area not shown just yet graphically, but that'll change here momentarily. Every county in red is under a tornado watch. And again, we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the northern reaches of Trumbull County, and we'll take another look at that storm. It's right here. So you're under the warning from around Cortland, and especially just north of Cortland and across the lake over towards the Trumbull County Fairgrounds, up towards Mecca, Johnston, and up towards Route 87, and eventually up into Ashtabula County. This storm has had a history of at least producing some hail. It's probably largely under an inch in diameter, but occasionally there may be some larger hailstones. Also some gusty winds embedded in this storm. This warning runs until 2 p.m., and I would expect that the threat in Trumbull County is going to be over before 2 p.m., but the warning polygon does extend up into Ashtabula County, and they actually put parts of Crawford County, PA, under this warning until 2. So 2 o'clock may be fine once you're over towards Jamestown and Conneaut Lake and Crawford County, but the threat is probably over before 2 if you're under the warning in most of Trumbull County, especially from around Mecca on west. The risk is probably over well before 2. All right, so that's the one warning we have out. Again, I'm not seeing much evidence of any rotation with that, but it's something, every scan of the radar we've got to pay attention to this afternoon. Yeah, nothing grabbing my eye right now.
Yeah, I don't see much either.
Yeah, so this is quote-unquote behaving okay right now, but we'll keep an eye on it. Bring up our watch graphic again and see if they filled in.
Yeah, they just, Cleveland just should have put it out, so it should be all filled in.
Okay. All right, and then I'll zoom out to our regional view here. So there's the watch, every county in red. So that includes all of our television viewing area: Trumbull, Mahoning, Columbian, and then across the state line into Pennsylvania from Mercer and Lawrence, right through a good chunk of western into west central PA. This watch runs until 8, but it'll be discontinued way before 8 on the northern fringes, including in most of our viewing area. 8 o'clock may be fine as far as an expiration time goes. From Morgantown on east, say, but around here the threat will probably be over by 4:30, I would imagine, at the very latest. All right, so one severe thunderstorm warning for our viewing area, a couple of additional warnings out south and east of Columbus. I see they do have a tornado warning now with this storm southeast of Columbus, south of I-70, closer to Lancaster. Tornado warning for that county, Buckeye Lake, over towards Walnut, Licking. I believe this is Licking County, east of Columbus. That warning runs until 2 o'clock. That's put a loop on this radar.
And they say it's got quarter-sized hail in that storm, too.
Yeah, some big hail and enough rotation that they went with a tornado warning, so at least quarter-size hail along with some rotation, and that storm is tracking to the east. And so That particular storm may be more of a problem for down towards Cambridge, and eventually maybe eventually over towards Wheeling, closer to I-70, but probably for that individual cell, probably not a big deal for our viewing area. This is the one warning we have out right now. It's in effect until 2 o'clock. It's for northern Trumbull County. You are pretty much out of any sort of danger from this storm now. Once you're over towards Bristol and closer to the Portage and Geauga County lines. But from about Mosquito Lake and Mecca area on north towards Kinsman, still some threats with this, certainly for at least another 15 or 20 minutes. I'll say the storm is starting to take on a little bit of rotation. It's real subtle. Not real concerned about it, but you can see there's a little bit of a, more of a shape being, more of a supercellular shape to this cell the last couple of scans. So that's something we'll be watching. It's going to be out of Trumbull County probably by 1:45 or so at the latest. But over the next, handful of minutes at least, we got to keep a close eye on this one. If you're watching us from elsewhere in our viewing area, no severe weather right now. We have some showers moving through Sharon and Girard and Vienna as well, and a few more showers off to our south and west. Nothing real severe off to our south and west right now. The other warnings are southeast of Columbus right now. Everything's moving pretty quickly today. So, again, I think for our viewing area, the severe weather risk is going to be, a couple hours or a few hours at most. And then we'll be pretty much out of the woods at that point. All right, so bottom of the hour, 1:30, tornado watch in effect for our entire viewing area. We have one severe thunderstorm warning up in northern Trumbull County. And when we zoom out and take a look at the regional look, you can see that everything off to the west is pretty unimpressive. A lot of this stuff closer to I-77 right now is pretty unimpressive. Things perk up once you're down towards I-70, south and east of Columbus. But everything immediately upstream from our TV viewing area is fairly unimpressive right now. We have one storm that has a warning on it in our viewing area. It's in northern Trumbull County. Maybe a little bit of what we call a bounded weak echo kind of system or area here, right around Route 46. That indicates a pretty strong updraft and maybe an uptick in the hail sometimes when you see one of these. That's where you see a little bit of a donut hole kind of shape like this. That's something that can sometimes indicate a pretty strong updraft, and when you get a pretty strong updraft, sometimes you get some pretty sizable hailstones. The hail algorithm in our system has not been particularly impressed with the hail thus far. With this, I'll bring up the latest data here, and it has some hail, but nothing all that particularly impressive. We could be seeing half an inch, or maybe up to an inch, as far as the hailstones here. Looking at my off-camera radar source at the hail data here, and yeah, I could see where there's maybe a 3/4 of an inch, maybe up to an inch, hailstone here and there. But the hail core, visually displayed here over the northern end of Mosquito Lake, it's more towards Gustavus right now, and off to the north and east, closer to Kinsman here in the next few minutes. This is always a few minutes behind this hail tracker here graphically. It's just a part of radar algorithms. The radar system has to process this data, and it takes a couple minutes then to spit out a product here. The radars we show you, in other words, what I'm going to show you here, the more traditional radar, which shows what we call the reflectivity, the rain, in other words, these are definitely much more live than some of the what we call derived radar products like the hail tracker and the rotation tracker and things like that. Those tend to be a couple minutes behind truly live, whereas the reflectivity, the lag time is quite a bit less. We get a fresh scan from that pretty often. So a pretty good storm right now from just north of Mosquito Lake up towards Gustavus and just north of Kinsman, especially around Route 7, heading up into the Route 322 corridor in southern Ashtabula County. So from Williamsfield and eventually in the next couple minutes up towards Andover as well. Cherry Valley Pretty good thunderstorm, maybe some hailstones with that. Severe thunderstorm warning runs until 2, and that warning extends up into Crawford County, Pennsylvania as well. By the way, the Cleveland National Weather Service office covers Erie and Crawford County in northwestern PA, while the Pittsburgh Weather Service office covers Mercer and Lawrence counties in our television viewing area. And speaking of our television viewing area, let's go back to our kind of view of our core counties here. And everything's pretty unimpressive right now, aside from our northern Trumbull County storm. We don't have anything going on really in most of Columbiana County and most of Mahoning County as well. A couple of showers here and there closer to Sharon and over into Mercer County. That's pretty much about it. But it's one of those days, at least for the next couple of hours, that we just have to pay pretty close attention to everything that manages to get up on its feet on the radar, because this activity is heading into a much more favorable environment over in far eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania as we go deeper into the afternoon. It's warm outside. We had some sunshine earlier. The atmosphere is pretty unstable. A pair of tornado warnings, east of Columbus, approaching the I-70 corridor. These are in effect until 2 o'clock. Some hailstones and some rotation with this cell. This is now well east of Columbus and closer to Zanesville, or at least approaching Zanesville here shortly. And so if you have friends down towards Interstate 70 from west of Zanesville and then even east of Zanesville, closer to Cambridge and places like that, give them a heads up if they're not paying attention to the weather this afternoon that there is a tornado warning that's out just to their west right now. That particular cell is likely to track to our south, but it's something that we'll be watching as it continues crossing into eastern parts of Ohio and eventually into Pennsylvania. A couple of perkier showers here in eastern Tuscarawas County around Route 39 from Roswell over towards Sherrodsville, Delroy, Atwood Lake area. Carrollton, a couple of showers. This has perked up a little bit over the last few minutes, this particular cell right here. And, we've got a couple of decent showers up towards Interstate 76 as well. Atwater, Randolph along Route 224 over towards Summit County and over closer to the Akron area, Barberton. A couple of showers. We have a few showers up to Newton Falls. And here's our one severe thunderstorm warning. Now, again, this warned cell is almost out of Trumbull County. At least it's going to be probably by 1:45. So hard downpour, maybe some small hailstones right now, Gustavus, and parts of the Kinsman area as well. And certainly once you cross over into Ashtabula County, pretty good thunderstorm with perhaps some small hail and some gusty winds as well. Still not seeing much in the way of obvious rotation, but every now and then we get a scan that looks a little more interesting as far as any rotation with this. It's almost out of our viewing area though, so pretty soon we're going to hand that storm off to the Erie market, the Erie television market. And if there are any tornado warnings eventually with that particular storm, it would be in their area of jurisdiction and out of ours. Again, for those just joining us, we are under a tornado watch until 8 o'clock this evening. Now, our severe weather threat here locally, if you're watching us from the greater Youngstown area, if you can watch us on TV, if you're in our TV viewing area, in other words, the severe weather risk will not run all the way until 8 o'clock this evening. It'll be over probably by 4:30 at the latest this afternoon. So it's just, the next couple or few hours that we have to, watch everything. But this is a big watch. It runs until 8 for a reason. It's because all the way into central PA and down into parts of West Virginia, the storms are pretty far away from those areas. It's going to take several hours before they push into those geographical areas. But we are covered by the same watch. It's just we're on the northern fringes of the watch, and so even though it technically runs until 8, we're going to give the all clear in a couple of hours. Bring up the radar once again here and we'll put a loop on this. Here's a look at our line. Our line is definitely a little more impressive looking, with more lightning from about I-70 on south into southern Ohio. Once you get down into here, this is a pretty good looking line down here. Everything's a little more unimpressive looking north of I-70 right now. I wonder a little bit if, despite it being so warm and moderately humid, and we had some sunshine for this morning, I wonder if the debris clouds a little bit from the upstream activity this morning are stabilizing the atmosphere at least a little bit over northern Ohio, northwest PA, at least in comparison to southern Ohio. Starting to wonder if that's a little bit of a factor this afternoon, but we don't want to let down our guard, certainly. I'm going to keep an eye on this cell right here that's moving out of Sherrodsville. It's perked up a little bit over the last couple of scans. This is Route 39 between Sherrodsville and Carrollton. Once you get out towards Delroy and around Atwood Lake, pretty good downpour. There's not much lightning right now with this, but this has perked up a little in the last few scans. Maybe something that we're watching in Columbiana County, especially as we head towards the 2 o'clock hour. Also, a little bit of an uptick in some of this activity closer to Akron. This particular cell right here, this is over into Summit County. Akron on southward. It's starting to have a little shape to it. So that's something we got to keep an eye on. Again, nothing I'm real concerned about right now, but it may be a player eventually. With a lot of these, there's just not much lightning. Until you get a decent amount of lightning, it's hard to believe that any of these are getting very tall in the sky, and capable of doing much in the way of or causing much havoc if they're not producing much lightning. We have just kind of a dearth of lightning across most of northern Ohio right now. A lot of these are not much more than heavy showers, to be honest with you. So again, we started this live stream about a half an hour or so ago. Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here with Meteorologist Gavin Sandell in the back off camera. And if you're watching our live stream on the app, on our Storm Tracker 21 app, or on WFMJ.com, you'll be able to hear Gavin's voice. If you're watching this live stream on YouTube and on Facebook, the microphone that we use for those streams, Gavin can't really be heard very well on that microphone, but he'll be chiming in occasionally with things that he's looking at. He's logged into our other weather computer and keeping an eye on things, as another set of eyes here this afternoon. In my 13 years here at WFMJ, I've done a lot of these solo, and it's pretty hard to do solo. When you got a lot of stuff going on and a lot of cells you're keeping an eye on, it's hard to talk and also keep an eye on things at the same time. I can do it. I've done it plenty of times, but it is definitely a little bit more of a challenge. It's nice to have Gavin. Sometimes it's Andrew. It just depends on what day of the week and what time of the day it is and that sort of thing, who we can have covering these things. And on this Saturday afternoon, I'm thankful that Gavin is here and, foregoing maybe a little bit of a nap this afternoon to help me keep an eye on things after working the morning shift this morning. Putting a loop on our radar here, and I'll actually take off the warning information here to make this a little bit cleaner. Put a loop on the radar and show you the general progress of things. Everything's moving pretty quickly this afternoon. The forward speed on our warned storm, at least, let me look up that warning information. They have that moving, let's see, at about 55 miles per hour, that warned cell up in northern Trumbull County. So that's generally going to be the rule with anything this afternoon. All this stuff is moving at least 40 or 50 miles per hour. So everything's moving along at a pretty good clip. That's why our severe weather risk is not in any one location. It's not going to last all that long this afternoon. I think in our TV viewing area, we've got maybe two and a half hours to go before we can give you the all clear. Certainly before it gets dark this evening, we'll be pretty much in the clear at that point. I'll bring up our latest high resolution model here and show you. This is just one model simulation. This is a high-resolution model, and what we mean by that is, there's a lot of computer models out there, and some are higher resolution than others. It's like having a camera or a really nice phone with a lot of megapixels. The more megapixels that is in your camera phone or old-fashioned point-and-shoot camera, the sharper the image is going to be. And high-resolution modeling gives us a sharper view. It can resolve individual storms. The models that we look at, when we're looking at, 7 days into the future or longer, those are coarser, they're not as high resolution, and while they're certainly a valuable tool for us, they're not high resolution enough to zoom all the way down and pick out individual storms and things like that. So anyway, all that being said, this is one individual run of one of our high resolution models, and it shows the storms passing through, and already, here's 5:30, and even this I think is well after the threat ends around here. You can see by that point we're in pretty good shape, and our actual cold front that will bring about the temperature change overnight tonight and into Sunday, it won't pass through until mid-evening, probably well after dark, and it may have a couple of showers with it, maybe a puff of wind as well, but not expecting any severe weather with our actual cold front later on this evening. And we're even being a little bit charitable and calling it a cold front. It is a cold front, but the air mass behind it is not Arctic by any stretch of the imagination. It's still going to be well up into the 50s, even flirting with 60 in some places tomorrow afternoon. We're in early March. Our average highs are in the mid 40s, so even upper 50s to around 60 is still very, very nice. And we'll have a lot of sunshine for our Sunday afternoon as well. But we got to get through this afternoon. Here's our warned storm until 2 o'clock. It's now in the northeastern part of Trumbull County from Kinsman up towards the Ashtabula line and then over into Crawford County, PA. So if you're watching this live stream from northeastern Trumbull County, we're going to give you the all clear here probably in about 5 minutes by about 10 till the hour, about 1:50. This will be pretty much out of Trumbull County at that point. We'll give you the all clear from this storm if you're watching us back towards Johnston, over towards Mosquito Lake, certainly around Mecca. This particular storm is now well off to your north and east. A couple of the cells I mentioned earlier that have perked up a little bit. So the one that has exited Tuscarawas County is now over into parts of Carroll County, primarily from Sherrodsville on east around Route 39, Delroy, the Atwood Lake area. Maybe a few hailstones trying to form with that, as the reflectivity is definitely a little more impressive looking the last couple of scans with that. The other that got my attention briefly was one heavier shower over towards Akron. Let's show you that one. Let's see here. This one right here. This has a little bit of a shape to it, like this. And sometimes when I see something like that, it's just something that I've got to watch for a little while. It doesn't mean any rotation is imminent or anything like that, but it is acquiring a little bit of a shape. It really has no lightning or thunder, very little lightning and thunder right now with that particular storm over towards the Akron area. Anything grabbing your eye back there, Gavin, right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was primarily watching that one cell southwest of Columbiana County. Like you mentioned, it does have some significant reflectivity returns. So that's something to watch. I mean, that could definitely impact areas in the next maybe half hour. Hanoverton, Summitville.
Yeah.
We're going to have to track that. But yeah, I could pull up maybe some hail stuff and see if that's coming up there. Not exactly seeing anything right now.
Yeah, and looking at my off-camera source here for hailstones with this, there's probably some hail near Sherrodsville right now. So heads up around Carrollton, especially maybe the south side of Carrollton. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Weather Service did have to issue a warning for this for southern Carroll County. And that might clip southern Columbiana County as well. A warning polygon that they may draw with that. This is tracking northeast, so yeah, heads up, as Gavin mentioned, closer to maybe to Hanoverton, the Route 30 corridor and points south especially. Once you get down towards Summitville and Salineville, maybe something we have to watch out for as the storm continues to pretty quickly push north and east at about 50 miles per hour or so.
Yeah, I'd say probably with a movement of 50 miles an hour, probably get into Columbiana County. If its structure stays the same, maybe 20 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do a quick, just a quick storm track on this. If we're saying it's moving at about 50 on average, here's some approximate arrival times. Getting into Mechanicstown about the top of the hour, and then over into our TV viewing area around Salineville at about 5 after 2. In Lisbon, perhaps at about a quarter after 2. So that could be the next one up that we're paying pretty close attention to.
Yeah, National Weather Service in Pittsburgh has noticed that hail spike.
Oh, okay.
There's also in Crawford, Erie counties, not our area, but there's a special weather statement out for the cell that's north of the one that's warned right now.
Yeah, so the Cleveland office watching this guy up here that's heading into Erie County. And of course, we still have our warned storm over into Crawford County. It's pretty much out of Ashtabula and out of Trumbull at this point. So that warning will be allowed to expire for our viewing area at least at the top of the hour, but already here at 1:47, we can pretty much give you the all clear from that particular storm in northeastern Trumbull. These storms have warnings on them east of Columbus. These are the ones that are the strongest looking storms out of anything in Ohio right now. This is between Columbus and Zanesville along I-70. A couple of tornado warnings, a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, hailstones, some rotation embedded in this. And it looks like, yeah, we are going to get a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Columbiana County. There it is right there. So as we just mentioned a moment or two ago, there's our warning polygon. This warning runs until 2:30. So this is the storm that we just mentioned a minute at most ago, producing some big hailstones coming into the Carrollton area right now. So heads up eventually, Hanoverton, the Route 30 corridor, Summitville down to Salineville, and eventually over to Lisbon, maybe eventually even over towards East Liverpool, Beaver Creek State Park, Rogers, places like that eventually as we head into the 2 o'clock hour. But right now that storm is in Carroll County, and the uptick in reflectivity does coincide with some hailstones that are, definitely falling out of this storm right now. I'm looking at my off-camera radar source. There may be some hailstones that are bigger than an inch, or at least pretty close to an inch, between Delroy and Carrollton, or maybe just south of Carrollton right now. So maybe some pretty good hailstones falling in this storm right down here. We'll bring up our hail tracker here in our graphic system, and again, this is a few minutes behind, so this is showing a hail core over Sherrodsville, but again, it's pretty much closer to Carrollton at this point, and the hail core continues to grow with this. Also take a little bit of a slice of the storm to give you a little bit more of a 3D look at this, to show you, this is a growing storm. Here's a look at the kind of the 3D view. Again, we're looking at southern and western Carroll County, just outside of our viewing area right now. The top of the storm is getting up over 30,000 feet, up to maybe 35,000 feet. Once you get updrafts up into that level, especially this early in the year, it's pretty cold up there. Once we're into the heart of summer, you need updrafts to get up above 40,000 feet, especially to get some hailstones. But here in early March, you're not asking much for storms to produce hail, when the freezing level is definitely lower at this time of the year than perhaps it is at times later in the spring and into the summer season. So that's our next player, and a severe thunderstorm warning is out until 2:30 for the southwestern corner of Columbiana County. The warning has been discontinued for northern Trumbull. It's still in effect up into Crawford County, but that's out of our viewing area. So all clear for now in areas that had a warning earlier around the Kinsman area and elsewhere in northern Trumbull County. Put a loop on our radar here and go back an hour and show you the progress of things. Everything's moving pretty quickly, 50, 55 miles per hour maybe on average with this activity this afternoon. This is out ahead of a cold front. The actual front is still well off to our west, out here into western Ohio. When I bring up the temperatures, let me bring up the temperatures real quickly here while I have a minute. It's not a huge change on the other side of the front, because this colder air mass on the other side of the front is certainly not Arctic in origin. But look at the temperature difference on either side of the front. I mean, it's 81 in Charleston, West Virginia this afternoon. Even as nearby as Morgantown, it's 78 degrees early in March this afternoon. But Detroit's at 65, Indianapolis is at 60, and then the front on the other side, the air mass definitely gets a little more typical of March, as we're down to 50 in Chicago and even 38 in Dubuque. Now, we're not going to get as cold as Dubuque, but we will be a good 15 degrees or so colder, maybe 20 degrees colder tomorrow afternoon than today. It'll still be a nice afternoon coming up on our Sunday. So we have a nice afternoon to look forward to wrap up the weekend tomorrow, and Monday also looks like a real winter. But as advertised, things are getting a little bit busy this afternoon. We have one warning for our TV viewing area. It was just issued a few moments ago. It's for southern Columbiana County and includes Salineville and Hanoverton, and from Lisbon basically on south and west. Until 2:30, the storm has perked up and has started to produce some decent-sized hailstones over into Carroll County. Close-up view of that storm. There's Carrollton right there. So from about Atwood Lake on east over towards Carrollton, around the Route 39 corridor, pretty good thunderstorm with some hailstones and some gusty winds moving through here. And this is even beginning to take on a little bit of a shape to it. This may be something that we have to watch for, maybe some rotation. I'm going to bring up for the first time today what we call our wind velocity data. And again, this is something we show a lot when we're talking about severe weather, but it's been since last summer since we've done this. If you haven't watched a severe weather live stream, basically the green colors that we're displaying here are winds that are blowing towards the Pittsburgh radar source, which is of course east of Carroll County. And so all these winds are blowing in that direction. Anytime we are looking for rotation, we're looking for reds and greens in close proximity, winds blowing towards the radar and away from the radar in close proximity. Sometimes you don't even need a really good, what we call a couplet, red and green really close together, to get some rotation. Just sometimes, brighter greens next to even just not even bright reds, but more of a neutral color, that can sometimes indicate rotation as well. And nothing really stands out as far as real strong with this, but the cell itself is starting to take on a little bit of a shape on the reflectivity that makes it, something that we're going to have to watch. Certainly we're getting one of those, kind of shapes like this that sometimes is a precursor to a storm, at least wanting to try to rotate a little bit. Another cell that I was watching earlier that was trying to do that, still just does not look that impressive. This is what rolled through Canton earlier. It's now into Portage County. No lightning and thunder really with this. There's no hail with this. Just a downpour from about Route 43 in Brimfield and the Kent area on east over towards Rootstown and Ravenna as well. There's our warning polygon until 2:30 from about Delroy in Carroll County through Carrollton and all the way up to about Lisbon in Columbiana County.
We're getting lots of people in the comments of this live stream. They're seeing some thunder, they're hearing some thunder in Levittsburg, Warren, lots of Trumbull County up towards the north. No warnings there, but it's just a pretty large complex of rain up there.
Yeah. So Gavin mentioning, in case you didn't hear that we're getting some comments on social media of loud thunder in parts of Trumbull County. And yeah, we have some lightning strikes certainly, especially from about Warren on north towards Champion. Nothing severe with this particular batch of rain and thunder right now, but some loud thunder and some vivid lightning in a few spots up there. Thanks to everyone for chiming in the comments section if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys are our eyes and our ears.
Yeah, keep chiming in.
Yeah, keep chiming in. That's we have all these fancy radar products and everything, but sometimes the best thing for us is eyes on the ground truth, in other words. And our viewers provide a very valuable service to us a lot of times when it comes to covering severe weather. Let's look at one of our cameras. This is our Niles camera across from Eastwood Mall along Route 422, and we're looking west here. Definitely a darkening sky off to the west. I'll pan this around a little bit to the north. We'll overlook the mall a little bit more. There's the Eastwood Mall right there, and we're looking a little more in the direction now of the heart of that lightning and thunder off to the north in the northern part of the county, especially north of Warren. Pretty busy looking day at the Eastwood Mall on this Saturday afternoon. Some people doing some shopping. Hopefully everyone is staying weather aware. If you're watching this live stream, you're doing pretty well. You're more weather aware than some people are. If you know people who usually aren't real plugged into the weather, and it's early March, we're just coming out of winter, a lot of people aren't used to paying attention to severe weather risks. They're a little more used to snow and that sort of thing, considering the season we just came out of. If you know people like that, send them a text or get in touch with them, check in with them on a couple of occasions over the next couple of hours, and just make sure that they're kind of plugged into the situation today, because it's a day that we just need to be aware of our surroundings and make sure that in case severe weather were to threaten your location, that you and anyone has their plan in place. They know what they're going to do in case they need to seek shelter. So there's our Warren storm until 2:30. It's right over the heart of Carroll County right now, right over Carrollton. There is definitely some hail with this. It's starting to exhibit a few signs of rotation as well. This warning extends up to about Lisbon, almost to West Point, almost to East Liverpool, just clips Wellsville. But even if you're not technically in the warning, if you're watching us from Calcutta, up towards Clarkson, up towards Nagley, Rogers, Elk Run, places like that, you may eventually get a warning from this storm as we go into the 2 o'clock hour. We're about 3 minutes until the top of the hour. And so a new warning polygon may have to be issued, or downstream, I should say, from this out into eastern parts of Columbiana County, and then perhaps into Beaver County, Pennsylvania, parts of Lawrence County, Pennsylvania as well. Here, as we head towards the 2 o'clock hour, the top of the hour, this is the only warning that's in effect for our viewing area. Pretty impressive looking cell. There's our hail animation, showing that hail core that came through Sherrodsville and is impacting the Carrollton area right now, and probably just east of Carrollton right now in terms of the hail core. And there could still be some hailstones at least of a half an inch, if not up to an inch in diameter. Pretty good updraft with this. And again, this storm occasionally on some of the last few scans here, we're starting to see maybe a little bit of rotation starting to be exhibited by this storm. Weather Service in Pittsburgh. Is they're just keeping an eye on all this. They're mentioning that the hail threat will lower once we lose the drier air at the mid levels in their region. But that's in the Pittsburgh Weather Service region of jurisdiction, and that covers a lot of western PA all the way down to parts of West Virginia, southeast Ohio as well. So again, I'm watching this for any potential rotation. The radar, the velocity data here is pretty messy, but occasionally there is a scan that gets my attention with this.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what happens with that, I mean, you're starting to see much more heavier rain moving into far southwestern Columbiana County, Franklin, Summitville, Salineville, Washington townships. You're starting to get into the bulk of that rain. Some steadier rain moving in right now.
Yeah, starting to rain at a pretty good clip on the northern, or in the anvil of the storm, if you will, from Lisbon across Route 30 towards Guilford Lake and Hanoverton and places like that. Yeah, I don't love the shape of this, Gavin. If this continues to tighten. If this continues to tighten up, they might pull the trigger on a tornado warning with this. I think the jury is out on that, but the last couple of scans of the radar, starting to see maybe a little bit of a couplet trying to form.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye on that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, still seeing some pretty heavy rain in south central Trumbull County. There's also a little bit of rain moving in towards western Mahoning County as well. Ellsworth, Canfield. No crazy structure that you can really see from that, though. But again, our focus is on that big, that area southwest of Columbiana.
Columbiana, yeah. This is our main area of concern right now. Elsewhere across our viewing area, everything is certainly sub-severe and pretty garden variety. This is the guy that we got to keep an eye on. It has a severe thunderstorm warning on it until 2:30, and again, every now and then a scan of the radar tries to show a little rotation with this. Probably not enough yet to issue some sort of tornado warning. They don't even have a tornado possible tag on this just yet. Waiting for a little more consistency with the scans of this. But it is starting to take on a little bit of a kidney bean kind of shape. And we don't love seeing that, especially on a day like today where there is a lot of wind shear aloft, and the risk is there for perhaps an isolated tornado across the area. I showed this graphic at the start of our live stream today, but let me show this once again. This is a product from the Storm Prediction Center, which, if you don't know, is part of NOAA, part of the National Weather Service. They issue the daily severe weather outlooks that we a lot of times graphically show you, and part of what they do is they break down the percentage chance of certain risks, and the tornado risk today, 5%. Not a very big number, but that's a pretty high number for our part of the country on any day of the year. And they went ahead and added what we call a hatched area to this, these dashed black lines. And when they add that means that not only is there a tornado risk, but the kind of environment that we have overhead today is somewhat conducive to somewhat stronger tornadoes, not just EF0 type of tornadoes, but perhaps EF2 and higher. Certainly no guarantee that this is going to happen. The chances of any one location picking up a tornado are still quite small, but the chance is higher, quite a bit higher than just any other kind of random day throughout the year. So in an environment like that, we just have to watch everything very, very closely. And so that's why, I'm keeping a very close eye on the latest few scans with our Carroll County storm that will be impacting Columbiana County here before too much longer. Occasionally it does show signs that it wants to try to, at least at the mid-levels, rotate a little bit. Its reflectivity shape, has a little bit of a kidney bean, and I see they just... Oh, that's the one well south and west. I see a tornado possible tag on one storm, but that's this guy back here from Dresden up towards Coshocton and eventually closer to Newcomerstown. Tornado possible tag on that. That's this designation up at the top of your screen. Oops. That's this guy right here. That's what we call a tag. The Weather Service will augment kind of base warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings with different tags, situationally dependent, of course. And sometimes a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, but a storm every now and then, even though it has a severe thunderstorm warning and not a tornado warning, may want to rotate a little bit. At least it's showing signs occasionally, so they put a tag on it occasionally when that is the case. They have not put a tag on our storm that's getting set to impact Columbiana County. But I don't love the shape of this, Gavin. The reflectivity at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Again, regardless of what happens and what ends up with this storm, you're starting to see some heavy rain far southwestern Columbiana County. Again, Franklin, Summitville, even getting into Salineville and the edge of that. But yeah, that's something that we're going to be watching in the next couple of minutes. Not seeing anything as I'm scanning some of the weather service chatter that we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I'm still tracking some more rain north. Really getting into Mahoning and Trumbull County now. Not too much thunder that's coming from that, but communities like Cortland, communities like Warren, Lordstown starting to get into it. You're seeing kind of, you throw the radar up there, a pretty diagonal look from southwest over to northeast up in Trumbull County.
Yeah, some decent rains up here, and I'll tell you, I think the risk for severe weather this afternoon is already about over. From about Cortland on north and west. Once you get up towards Mesopotamia and up into wine country and Ashtabula County and Lake County and places like that, already the severe weather risk is probably just about done for the day up there.
Our temperatures have fallen. We were at almost 75 degrees to start the 1 p.m. hour, and now we're down to the 60s once that rain started to move through. I wouldn't be surprised if that temperature goes down even further. And again, if you're cooler, that means you don't have as much energy, you don't have as much instability down there to create those thunderstorms. National Weather Service in Pittsburgh said that they are closely monitoring that storm in Carroll County, getting into Columbiana County now.
Okay. And yeah, Gavin just mentioning, in case you didn't hear him there, that the Weather Service office in Pittsburgh is also closely monitoring that storm in northeastern Carroll. The same one we've been telling you about. And Gavin also mentioned a moment ago the temperature at the airport has dropped from the 70s to 69. Anywhere we have some rain-cooled air, that's going to lower the severe weather risk from here on forward. We're no longer in that prime mid-70s air mass that we were in earlier on today. So already in kind of our northern viewing area, we're starting to almost be out of the woods in terms of severe weather this afternoon. But in areas south of Interstate 80 especially, we're certainly not out of the woods just yet. And this is our storm that we're most concerned about right now, coming out of Carroll County. So we're getting into some pretty hard rains in the anvil of this storm now, up towards Summitville, Route 644, and heading across Route 30 towards Salineville. And the shape of this on the reflectivity would suggest that, again, this bears watching. Looking at the velocity data, it's real messy still. I don't think it's a real tight rotation with this, but yeah, they just added a possible tag to this, so you can see that right up here. So they're not issuing a tornado warning for this, but they are putting a tag on this warning, kind of a heads up, if you will, that occasionally this has been showing some signs of rotation. Just a reminder for everyone that as we go through this coverage, the streaming coverage this afternoon, if we were to get a tornado warning for our viewing area, we would have to interrupt programming on the television side. Thankfully, the Olympics are over. What are we airing this afternoon? Golf, maybe? Yeah. I don't think we'll have too many complaints about that. It's one of the challenges of TV meteorologists is needing to interrupt programming for weather coverage sometimes. Sometimes it just has to be done. So anyway, we will have to get on television if a tornado warning is issued for our viewing area. Right now, we don't have a tornado warning. We have a severe thunderstorm warning from about Lisbon on south and west until 2:30. We have a tornado watch in effect for our entire television viewing area, which I'll bring up here and zoom out. Every county in red is under a tornado watch. That includes all of our viewing area, all of western Pennsylvania, all of eastern Ohio, really, down into West Virginia. This watch runs until 8, but I think for our viewing area, we'll be out of the woods certainly well before 8, and already we're getting out of the woods in our northern viewing area. I think by 4 o'clock, 4:30 at the latest, most of our TV viewing areas should be pretty much in the clear. But nonetheless, these counties are under a tornado watch, every county in red, and that includes everyone in our TV viewing area. So the Weather Service in Pittsburgh just mentioning new severe thunderstorm warning down in Muskingum County. That's near Zanesville. So they're not issuing a tornado warning with this as of right now. But again, every scan of the radar has to be monitored. The storm itself is just about to enter Columbiana County, So heads up in Salineville. And, heads up, as we go through the next 5 minutes or so, even though the wind velocity data on this is not as ominous looking perhaps as the reflectivity, if a tornado warning were to come out, we would want people to seek shelter pretty quickly. If you're watching us from the southwestern corner of Columbiana County, so places like Summitville and Salineville, and eventually over towards Highlandtown, up towards Gavers, be ready to maybe seek shelter for a few minutes at least from this storm if we decide to tell you to do that. We're not going to tell you that just yet, with no tornado warning out. But this storm, has been occasionally a little bit concerning the way it looks on the radar. At the very least, it is still producing some hail coming into Salineville, and especially just north of Salineville. Some hailstones are falling out of this right now. We think coming across the Carroll County line up into southwestern parts of Columbiana County. Let's get real local here and zoom all the way in. There's Summitville down to Salineville right there. So anyone near Route 644 and coming across Route 39 out of Carroll County into Columbiana County. So those two kind of state highways. If you're anywhere near those locations, heads up that a pretty good thunderstorm is happening right now or about to happen in most of those areas, and it's not out of the question that you'll be put under a tornado warning sometime in the next maybe 10 minutes or so. Elsewhere in Columbiana County, if you're watching us from closer to East Liverpool and then up towards Salem and Columbiana, not under any warnings right now, but we'll see what happens with this. A new warning might have to be issued that includes more of Columbiana County, something like this eventually, and it may that new warning polygon may extend up to East Palestine, include Rogers, heading down towards East Liverpool. It may get the village of Columbiana as well, if a new warning has to be issued. One is not out yet, but I could see where one eventually does need to be issued. Let's do a quick scan of this, and there's the latest velocity scan right there, and we'll do like a 3D slice of our storm. As it enters the Salineville area, it's pretty tall. It's up to about 30,000 feet or so. As I mentioned on our streaming coverage not long ago, at this time of the year especially, you don't need the tallest storms in the world to create some problems with hail and to bring down some wind energy from aloft. We're not into June and July when it's the whole air mass, the whole atmosphere is warmer than it is right now. So sometimes in the heat of summer, we get storms that get up to 50, 60,000 feet even. That's a little more uncommon this early in the season, but still 30 to 35,000 feet is a pretty tall storm here in early parts of March. Just do a recap here as we head towards 211. We started this live stream about an hour and 5 minutes or so ago. And just recapping where we stand right now, we have one warning in effect for our viewing area. That's in southern Columbiana County. We have some garden variety showers with occasional thunder and lightning. Some of this is a little on the loud side. From Warren to Vienna to Cortland and points to the north and east. All that is sub-severe right now. Really not much in the way of a concern for any of this activity north and west. A couple of these cells look a little bit stronger right now from Stark County, Canton area, down into Tuscarawas County, Strasburg, closer to Dover, Parral, places like that. And then the more impressive part of this line thus far has been closer to I-70. There's been several tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings from south and east of Columbus over towards Zanesville and eventually over towards Cambridge as well. That's where the majority of the warnings have been thus far this afternoon. Closer to home, though, here's our Warren storm. Salineville area, Summitville, and then eventually up towards Lisbon as well. This warning runs until the bottom of the hour at 2:30 this afternoon. Still producing some hailstones, and we're still keeping a close eye on the wind data out of this storm. My off-camera radar source still not real impressive in terms of the latest scans and the wind. Also, my off-camera radar source not quite as kidney bean looking with the reflectivity. Not sure why that is, but this looks a little more ominous on our radar source right now. A little bit of a curl to this. Not seeing that quite as much on my other source. Yeah. I know why that is. My other radar source, I'm using the Cleveland radar instead of the Pittsburgh. Let me switch over to Pittsburgh, because this data I'm showing you graphically on our stream here is from the Pittsburgh radar, and I was looking off the Cleveland radar a moment ago on my other radar source. And yeah, there's definitely a little more of of a kidney bean shape, if you will, to this when we look at the Pittsburgh radar data. Southern Columbiana County is definitely closer to the Pittsburgh radar than the Cleveland radar is. So that's why there was a little bit of a discrepancy there. So again, put a little bit of a loop on this, and we have our strong storm in Columbiana, Southern Columbiana. We have fairly routine activity elsewhere across our viewing area. Heavier storms off to the south, closer to Interstate 70. A lot of these are probably going to try to scoot by to our south and be more of a problem for the Wheeling and Steubenville areas, and eventually the Pittsburgh area as well. Might get grazed in our southern viewing area by some of the northernmost cells here that are east of Columbus. But the farther north and west from Youngstown you are, the lower the chances of having severe weather are for the rest of the afternoon. So if you're watching us, I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to stop the radar and draw a line like this. If you're watching us from Southington, Newton Falls, heading up towards Mesopotamia, maybe as far east as Cortland even, we can almost at this point, I don't want to do it just quite yet, but almost give you the all clear for the afternoon in those locations, even though technically you're still under a tornado watch in some of those locations. But you have some rain-cooled air there, and I think you're almost out of the woods. But south and east of the area I just drew, we need to pay attention for a little while longer. There's our Columbiana storm, and again, this runs until the bottom of the hour at 2:30.
Yeah, I'm tracking now these storms to our south and west over here. They've expanded the severe thunderstorm warning into the New Philly area, and it would be tracking. It's still not an immediate threat to our area, but it's worth monitoring at least over the next half an hour to an hour or so. Still has that tornado possibles tag at least on it. I know that's for the old warnings. Still seeing if that's that's part of the new warning that they just put out as well.
Looks like they did not tag the newest warning there. Yeah, Gavin just mentioning this polygon here that extends up into Tuscarawas County until 2:45. This storm that's impacting Coshocton right now and has that new warning for parts of Tuscarawas, this may be something that eventually scoots by the southern part of our viewing area. Maybe kind of a close call. It's something we'll be watching. We're also seeing a little bit of an uptick in the activity with some new lightning strikes. A little farther north than that, this is up towards Strasburg, heading up closer to the Canton area. A little bit of an uptick in some of this activity. Mineral City, this is Strasburg. Some beefier activity right there. So that's something that will definitely be worth watching. Still getting some lightning strikes. There's probably still some pretty loud thunder from about Howland on east up into Trumbull County, over towards Vienna, over towards closer to Yankee Lake. You may be hearing some pretty loud thunder with some lightning up here. Everything is sub-severe in terms of the wind, and not really seeing much hail. There might be a few pea-sized hailstones falling out of this, but that should be about it right now.
Taking a look at the storm down in Columbiana County now, it seems like the structure the last couple of radar runs has significantly deteriorated a little bit. Not just the shape of it, but also the intensity of the rain and even the hail that's coming through that storm. It's just about to get out of the warning.
Yeah, Gavin mentioning there that the last couple of scans not as impressive with our Columbiana County warning here, both in terms of the hail. It's probably producing at least some hail, just not as big as earlier. But also in terms of just the overall structure, we're not as impressed looking. We're not seeing that kidney bean structure quite as well on the reflectivity here. It remains to be seen if they'll issue a new warning for this downstream, because this is just about to get out of the warning polygon. So there may be a new warning that's issued downstream that encompasses more of Columbiana County, including maybe East Palestine down to Rogers, maybe down to East Liverpool as well. Looks like the bulk of this is probably going to miss East Liverpool off to the north. But this storm is a little less impressive than it was 10 minutes or so ago when they put the tornado possible tag on it. There's our other warnings. These are now coming towards I-77 from Zanesville up to Coshocton. A couple of warning polygons here. One still has a tornado warning tag on it. And again, some of that activity might brush our southern viewing area before it exits Ohio. Here's our warned storm right here. Just paying attention to, we have a it's basically a chat room, if you will, open with the National Weather Service offices here locally. Our viewing area covered by both the Cleveland and Pittsburgh National Weather Service offices, and our we call it NWS chat. If the microphone is picking up the little dings out of the corner or out of off screen, that's a new chat, something going on in the chat, a product being issued, a storm report being issued. And so whenever on a day like this I hear that sound, I have to look off screen and see what's going on. And yeah, Pittsburgh is issuing a couple of reports of damage over towards Carrollton, thunderstorm wind damage, number of trees and power lines around the city of Carrollton, with this storm that now has a warning on it in Columbiana County. This storm was probably stronger when it moved over Carrollton than it is right now in Columbiana County. As we mentioned a moment ago, it's about to outrun its warning polygon. This warning runs until 2:30, so another 11 minutes on this. But the storm is about out of the warning polygon, so Pittsburgh is going to have to make a decision if they want to issue a new warning polygon for this or not. They might just special weather statement this instead of a new severe thunderstorm warning, because again, I think it's probably undergoing some weakening. It may be sub-severe at this point as it crosses Route 30 from the south side of Lisbon down towards West Point and heading over towards Elk Run as well. And just as I say that, the Weather Service in Pittsburgh, who is watching the storm, mentioning that, let's see here, what did they say? It looks like it's degraded the last few runs, thinking of letting the warning expire. Oh, Gavin mentioned that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some intel, you know?
Oh, okay. I saw the message and I didn't look to see who it was from. It was actually Gavin who was commenting in NWS chat there and asking the Weather Service if they're going to, issue a new warning downstream of this. And it looks like Fred is replying to you.
He said he does not plan on issuing a downstream warning.
All right, so nice of Fred. We love Fred at the Weather Service office in Pittsburgh. He's very responsive on NWS chat. He's kind of the head honcho down there in Pittsburgh, and at this point, they're not planning on issuing a new warning. So thanks to Fred down in Pittsburgh for responding to Gavin's message there. In addition to being alerted to new products and things like that, we can chat with National Weather Service personnel. Emergency managers are on this chat as well. Anyone who has an interest in severe weather are in these chat rooms. And so, it's a really good resource for us on a day like today when we're paying close attention to everything. So that warning polygon, its original expiration time was at 2:30, but they're probably going to discontinue that a little before 2:30 because the storm itself is just about out of the polygon. Let's head up to Trumbull County. I've centered the map here on Trumbull County, and we still have a pretty good thunderstorm here, and there may be some small hailstones falling out of this over towards north of Hubbard, kind of between Hubbard and Orangeville. So kind of in this section of this storm right here. There may be a few hailstones falling out of this. Not real impressed with much else with this right now in terms of its structure, in terms of rotation, but there may be some small hailstones certainly. And it looks like if our Columbiana storm is still producing hail, it's probably sub-severe. By definition, a severe thunderstorm has hail of 1 inch in diameter or larger. And likely this, if it is still producing some hail down here in Columbiana County, it's likely half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. Zooming all the way in, pretty good thunderstorm right now over West Point, parts of the Elkton area, and heading over towards Clarkson as well. This is going to clip the Rogers area. This is mostly going to stay to the north of Glenmore and Laycroft and Calcutta, and certainly north of East Liverpool and Wellsville at this point. So, again, this is Columbiana County we're zoomed in on here. And these brighter colors on the reflectivity indicative of heavy rain. Sometimes brighter colors are hailstones as well. The way radar works, the radar beam goes out, it hits things, and then returns a signal back. When the radar beam goes out and hits large things, big raindrops or hailstones, it returns a signal that, when graphically displayed, is a brighter color. And so the radar beam, when it hits hailstones, when it hits big fat raindrops, it's going to, return a bright orange to reddish color on our color scheme here. The green colors, of course, would be later rainfall rates.
I'm not seeing anything, since this severe warm storm is about to expire in Columbiana County, not seeing anything that's catching the eye locally right now. I do see there's a considerable tagged severe storm, thunderstorm warning down towards Zanesville, moving towards the northeast. We might as well keep our eyes on it over the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that we'll have to watch eventually. This may be the last storm that might impact our viewing area, and it's probably just our southern viewing area. But this is another one of those tags on a warning product. Sometimes they put tornado possible, sometimes they put considerable. The highest end severe thunderstorm warnings get a tag that's called destructive. Sometimes we'll even break in on television for those higher end severe thunderstorm warnings that have a destructive tag, because a lot of times severe thunderstorms that get that tag are probably producing winds in excess of 70 miles per hour, and wind speeds that high are the same thing as basically an EF0 or even an EF1 tornado. So those can be really, really serious, and sometimes, and we did this a couple of times last year, we didn't have much severe weather after June last year, but there were a couple of occasions last year, especially late spring, I think, maybe early summer, where we did break in on TV because we had a couple of higher end severe thunderstorm warnings. So considerable is a step below destructive in terms of these tags, but it's, they don't issue these things lightly, that is for sure. Here's our warning that is set to expire in 1 minute. The storm out of that warning polygon right now, so you're in the clear from this storm if you were under the severe thunderstorm warning earlier. Salineville, Summitville, Highlandtown, places like that. The warning is now gone. Fred down in Pittsburgh mentioning the environment remains favorable over northern West Virginia, western PA. Those are areas in which the atmosphere is not what we call, it hasn't been contaminated yet, if you will, by a lot of showers. Our atmosphere has been contaminated a little bit. In other words, some rain-cooled air anywhere where it has rained. And so a contaminated atmosphere, an atmosphere that has cooler air than previously or has had a lot of cloud cover lately, those areas don't have as pristine of an environment. In other words, the fuel that goes into storms is not quite as good. It's not that premium fuel, if you will, to help fuel the storms. And so that's why I have been mentioning on occasion that already the risk is lowering pretty fast for severe weather for the rest of the day in a lot of Trumbull County and probably northwestern Mercer as well. Now, south and east of that area I just drew on here, I think we probably still have to pay attention for a little while longer. Probably into the 3 o'clock hour, maybe 4 o'clock at 4:30 at the latest. But where we have rain-cooled air, the threat is probably just about over in our northern and western, far western viewing area. So again, graphically, that warning polygon should be disappearing here momentarily. There's our Columbiana storm. This will be getting out of Columbiana County pretty quickly. Zoom all the way in on this. Still a hard downpour around Clarkson right now. Union Ridge, Pancake Clarkson Road area. This is an area that had a tornado a handful of years ago. Don't remember what year that was, maybe 2020. This is an area that had a tornado. I remember covering that cell. So, and pretty unique name, Pancake Clarkson Road, and so I always remember that area for having a tornado at some point a handful of years ago. Again, if you live down here, forgive me for forgetting what year that was, but I think it might have been 2020. It was, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Not sure why our system is hanging on to this warning polygon here. Oh, it has 3 minutes left on it. That's why. It's only 2:27. That's why. It expires at 2:30. All right, so downstream, and this will be a concern mostly for our southern viewing area. Here's a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. One includes parts of Tuscarawas County. It does not have a tag on it. But the one south of there, closer to Zanesville, does have a considerable tag on it. This is right along I-70. And this is moving quickly off to the north and east. And this may still eventually be an issue for maybe our southern viewing area. That remains to be seen. That would probably be the last one that we're going to be tracking this afternoon if it maintains its updraft and its strength all the way into eastern Ohio. I think that may be the last of the Mohicans, if you will, in terms of storms that we're tracking as potentially impacting our area. this afternoon. It's impacting Zanesville right now, so it's pretty far off to the south, but it is tracking northeast, and eventually maybe it impacts parts of our area south of 224 especially. That's something we'll be watching for as we head deeper into the 3 o'clock hour. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour here at 2:30, and already, boy, time flies when you're having fun, right? When you're covering severe weather for the first time in 7 or 8 or 9 months. Already we've been doing this live stream for about an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half anyway. If you're just joining us, getting in touch with the weather this afternoon, I'm 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm. Meteorologist Gavin Sandell is back in the back there, and he's also monitoring things with me. Thanks to Gavin for hanging out this afternoon and putting in a very long day after working the morning shift this morning. We have a risk for severe weather this afternoon. In our viewing area, the risk is probably up through maybe 4:30 at the latest, and that should be about it for the day. Technically, we're under a tornado watch until 8, but I would expect that watch to be discontinued way before that expiration time for our viewing area. It may run until 8, well to our south and east, but not necessarily for our viewing area at all. We've had one warning in southern Columbiana County that is ready to expire here in less than a minute at the bottom of the hour. The storm is now well east of this warning polygon. Earlier we had a severe thunderstorm warning in northern Trumbull. That's long gone at this point. We have some fairly innocuous, showers with occasional thunder coming out of the Canton area along Route 62, Alliance, and Minerva. And again, everything has to be watched today, so anywhere where we have a little bit of an uptick in our reflectivity values here, including around Minerva, there may be some hailstones falling out of this around the Minerva area right now. I'm looking at my off-camera radar source, and yeah, maybe Minerva down to Malvern. Maybe some hailstones with that. But otherwise, everything's pretty innocuous right now. And again, for those just joining us, I can pretty much at this point, I think, give you the all clear from severe weather if you are in this area I just drew. And for those less geographically inclined, this includes places like Newton Falls, Southington, Cortland, Mesopotamia, Kinsman, maybe as far south as Warren, but especially south of Warren, down towards Youngstown, down towards the 224 corridor, and certainly once you're south of 224 down into Columbiana County, we need you to pay attention to the weather for a while longer this afternoon. Maybe up through the 3 o'clock hour, and then we'll be pretty much out of the woods at that point. But all hazards are on the table this afternoon. The atmosphere is conducive this afternoon to producing not only strong winds from any thunderstorm, but hailstones, something we can't rule out, and occasionally we've had some with some of these storms. And also the tornado risk is certainly not zero this afternoon. There's a lot of wind energy aloft. Wind shear, changing of the wind direction, and especially today, wind speed with height as you go up through the atmosphere. Sometimes that can lead to some rotation. The rotation starts out kind of in the horizontal and then gets stretched vertically as you get updrafts from thunderstorms. It's one of those days today in which that is, one of the factors in the atmosphere. And so even though at this point we haven't had anything crazy happen in our viewing area, we got to be vigilant this afternoon. That's why we got this live stream up and running plenty early this afternoon. So in case some of these storms did get pretty severe, we would be already up and running with our live streaming coverage. So thanks to everyone who's watching us, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. WFMJ.com/weather is our weather website, and the 21 News app and the Storm Tracker weather apps are our mobile apps. And I mentioned this earlier in the live stream, and in case you missed it, thanks to everyone who's been a little bit patient with our website, WFMJ.com/weather. Over the last couple of months, we've had some infrastructure problems, if you will, with our website displaying bad forecast information. We're going to rectify that before March is through, as we'll get a much better system in place for our website. But it's been a tough winter. Thankfully, the Storm Tracker 21 app remains the Valley's best weather app, and we want you to have that on your mobile device, even when the weather's quiet. Great forecast information on there: hourly forecast, daily forecast, the radar, all of our videos, things like that are posted on the Storm Tracker 21 app.
Comment on the cell that we were looking at going into Columbiana County, the one that just was had that severe thunderstorm warning expired. I have to say the structure has kind of persisted over the last couple of runs and sweeps over that. It seems like it's not going down without a fight out there. And regardless of if you're getting thunder, if you're getting hail, it seems like there's a little bit of a hail signature starting to cross through the border, PA border there. Northwestern Beaver County, maybe going into southern Lawrence County, you might want to take notice of that.
Yeah, and for those who couldn't hear Gavin there, he's just mentioning, and I like the way he put it there, this storm is not going down without a fight. They did Pittsburgh office, the Weather Service office, did not issue a new warning for this once it got out of the original warning polygon, but over the last scan or two, it has perked up a little bit more. It may still be occasionally producing some hailstones as it comes into Beaver County. Now, this is going to be out of Columbiana County in the next couple of minutes, but they may end up, if it continues to kind of re-intensify, they may end up issuing a new severe thunderstorm warning for this cell that includes parts of Beaver County and maybe the southern reaches of Lawrence County as well, but especially into Beaver County. It's one of those things, storms sometimes, they go up and down, they have cycles, they have life cycles. And sometimes when it looks like a storm is down and out, it's maybe not quite dead just yet, and that may be the circumstance with that particular storm. Here's our other warning polygons over eastern Ohio. One has a considerable tag on it, which means it's a particularly strong severe thunderstorm.
Eric, I'm going to butt in right now. They just
Yep.
issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Lawrence and Columbiana counties for that system, that cell that we were just mentioning. Like we both said, it's not going down without a fight, right?
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah, and it's amazing how many times that's happened this afternoon, Gavin. We start talking about a storm, and boom, the Weather Service, like they're listening to us. The warning polygon that was just issued by the Weather Service office in Pittsburgh, it's a severe thunderstorm warning. It runs until 3:15. Now, it does include eastern Columbiana County, including the East Palestine area, but the storm will be out of Columbiana County in the next 5, 6, 7 minutes. So this is more of an issue for Darlington, Pennsylvania, and maybe over towards Elwood City in southern Lawrence County, and maybe over towards Portersville as well. You can see this warning polygon extends up to about Newcastle, not quite to Slippery Rock, over into Lawrence County. And again, that warning runs until 3:15. So we were just talking about how this storm is perking back up a little bit and trying to produce some hail, and indeed the Weather Service saw that as well and issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're watching us from East Palestine, you're technically under this warning, but the storm is just missing us in East Palestine, just to your south, or it's a very close shave there, and it'll be safely east of you in East Palestine, coming up towards maybe 2:45 at the latest. So technically in the warning polygon, actually you're technically in the warning polygon as far west as Rogers, but certainly the storm is now east of you in Rogers. You know, when they draw these warning polygons, they can't draw them exactly perfectly, and these are moving storms after all, so not long after they've drawn a warning polygon, already parts of the warning polygon are in the clear, because these things are moving pretty fast on a day like today, at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Before that warning polygon was issued, I mentioned these warnings down here. We now have 3 of them. One has a considerable tag on it. This is the one bearing down on Cambridge and extreme southern Tuscarawas County. That may graze East Liverpool and that vicinity as we go deeper into the 3 o'clock hour, but it may just be just to the south. It may be more of an issue closer to Steubenville. We'll see on that one. This warning polygon down here is certainly going to miss us to the south and is aimed more towards Pittsburgh, as well as this one. And so this guy right here is the only one I am concerned about for anyone in our viewing area, and I think it would be just our southern viewing area. So we'll be watching for that one. Out ahead of that one, we have some scattered activity. All this is sub-severe from Hopedale and Jewett on closer to Carrollton and southern Carroll County. Hanoverton getting a pretty good downpour right now. I was watching this a little bit earlier. Maybe a few hailstones falling out of this. Probably some small hailstones. Yeah, anyone around Hanoverton, you might get a few hailstones coming out of this little uptick right here. Kensington, Hanoverton, New Garden. Again, here's our most recently issued warning polygon. This warning runs until 3:15. And while it does include extreme eastern Columbiana County, you're almost out of the woods already in Columbiana County. It's more of an issue for Beaver County, Pennsylvania, and then back up into southern and eastern Lawrence County as well.
Yeah, warnings from that, including hail, including those gusty winds moving northeast at 45 miles an hour for that particular system there. But yeah, you're seeing that. I have my radar pulled up here. You're seeing the hail that just crossed into the Pennsylvania border, into the state of Pennsylvania just about a couple of minutes ago into Beaver County. But like we said, that storm's starting to move towards the northeast, getting into Lawrence County, and the anvil, as we like to say, of the storm is the brunt of the rain is starting to get Little Beaver, New Beaver, Elwood City over the next couple of minutes.
This storm has had a history of producing some hail all the way back through Carroll County and eastern Tuscarawas County earlier on this hour. Then it had a little bit of a downshift in its intensity, thankfully, as it crossed into central and eastern Columbiana County. Then it started to, perk up a little bit as it was getting set to cross the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line. So, again, this warning runs until 3:15, and some hailstones and some gusty winds, a possibility with this storm as it heads towards the Elwood City area and Beaver in Lawrence County, I should say, here momentarily. It's probably going to miss Newcastle just off to the south of the city of Newcastle. Up into Mahoning County, we just have some rain falling. This is from about Route 11 on west, Canfield, Austintown, North Jackson, Ellsworth, over towards Berlin Center, up towards Craig Beach, some rain falling. And in areas that are just seeing some light rain right now, we can just about add you to the areas that are probably in the clear for severe weather this afternoon. So if you're watching from, certainly once you get out towards Craig Beach, and maybe as far east at this point as Niles, North Jackson, McDonald, about down to Austintown, if you're watching from any of those communities on north and west, I think you're pretty much in the clear for severe weather this afternoon. Just some rain to contend with here as we go deeper into the 2 o'clock hour, putting a little bit of a damper on otherwise a very late May day, with temperatures before the morning was through already in the 70s today. One of the things that helped to fuel our thunderstorms.
Yeah, and Eric, you can correct me if you mentioned this recently already, but we're just seeing some pretty heavy rain, a couple of scattered thunder, and lightning reports in Mercer County, north central Mercer County, near Greenville, Otter Creek, maybe even up to Salem, Sandy Creek, Sugar Grove as well. Doesn't look like too much in terms of severe components, but I mean, you are seeing a lot of thunder from there, and just some heavy rain that could accumulate pretty quickly over the next couple of minutes up there.
Yeah, Gavin mentioning this Mercer County storm, and we haven't checked in on Mercer County in a little while, so glad you brought that to my attention. Pretty good downpours and some small hail probably around Greenville, and especially just east of Greenville right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we had some small hail right here along Route 358, I should say. And this is cruising across the northern tier of Mercer County, so as you go over towards the I-79 corridor, this is coming your way pretty quickly. Already getting into the Anvil Rains once you get over towards Deer Creek and Sandy Creek, places like that. Thankfully, no rotation with this. Just a good thunderstorm with some small hail as well. Certainly some hard downpours. It's not unheard of, certainly, to see downpours like this in early March, but it's definitely a little more common later in the in the spring season and heading into the summer as well. Real quickly, I'll show you the. See, I'm a little rusty on where all my buttons here are because it's been many months. Wanted to show the. Well, first of all, just show you the hail up here in Mercer County, and our algorithm not showing a whole lot here. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a few small hailstones right through here between Greenville and Route 19. There we go. Precipitation rate is what I wanted to show you. And sometimes this precipitation rate can be influenced a little bit by the presence of hailstones. In other words, it looks like it's raining harder than it actually is because the radar is seeing some hailstones. But nonetheless, you're getting some rates being queried by the radar here of 4 or 5 inches per hour. And even if those are inflated somewhat, even if you're only getting a couple of inches per hour in terms of the precipitation rate, that's a hard downpour. Thankfully, everything's moving quickly, so it's not going to rain that hard for more than a minute or two in any one location. But that's a pretty hefty precipitation rate for this time of the year.
Yeah, we just got some commentary from our friend Fred down in the NWS office in Pittsburgh, and he mentioned that, for that Mercer County cell that we were looking at, the core not terribly impressive, not to the level of ones that they've warned so far, including the one in Trumbull County a couple hours earlier, and Columbiana County, but they're going to continue to watch. He also mentioned there's a little bit of a meso signature aloft, up high in the air there. So we'll continue to watch that over the next couple of minutes, see if anything develops. For now, though, I mean, a lot of our attention down towards Beaver County, Lawrence County for this severe warm storm. Still producing a hail signature. north of South Beaver. So we'll be watching that.
Yeah, so again, we're watching our northern Mercer County system, or our cell here. At the mid-levels aloft, there may be a little bit of a rotation signature, but that's well aloft at this point. And also, of course, as Gavin was just mentioning, in case you didn't hear him, we have to keep an eye on Lawrence County here in the short term as this storm grazes the southeastern corner of Lawrence County, still producing some hailstones down here, and a little bit of a gusty breeze as well. I would suspect right now hail is mostly under an inch as it moves across Big Beaver. So some hailstones certainly Elwood City area over the next 5 or 10 minutes. But at this point, the latest scan at least is not much bigger than probably about a half an inch in terms of the diameter of those hailstones. Once you get a hailstone of a diameter of up to 3/4 of an inch, and especially up to an inch, that's when you can start to get hailstones that are more impactful. They can crack windshields and dent siding and that sort of thing. When you have hailstones that are smaller than that, it tends to be a little more what I call conversational. Let me bring up a graphic real quickly while I have a moment. So bear with me for just a second here. I call it conversational hail. In other words, you look outside and you go, "Oh, it's hailing." You might even take out your phone and take a little video of it. But it typically doesn't have much of an impact on things. Here's a look at a chart of hail sizes. Again, by definition, a severe thunderstorm, produces hailstones of an inch in diameter or larger. Quarter-size hail, in other words. Once you're up to ping-pong and larger, that's pretty rare for around here. Big hailstones are definitely more common over parts of the plain states especially, but even parts of the south. Around here, a couple times a year, maybe we get up to 1.5 inches or close to 2 inches. But that's kind of the exception. We almost never, ever see anything baseball size or up to grapefruit size around here. The atmosphere in our part of the country just, there's typically not enough dry air aloft, typically. And that's one of the ingredients you need for big hailstones a lot of times is dry, cold air aloft that can aid in the formation of big hailstones. And it's just not something we see with a lot of frequency around here. So, all right, back at you. Apologize for the blank screen there for a second, but here's our current radar, 2:45 p.m., and our Warren storm over in Lawrence County, producing some small hailstones coming into Elwood City. We also, that brief uptick I mentioned a while ago down into the Hanoverton area, that little cell approaching Guilford Lake and heading over towards Lisbon right now. This is also possibly producing some small hailstones and a gusty breeze, a possibility as well. Not seeing anything severe in terms of the wind with that, but a pretty good little uptick in the activity coming across Teagarden and heads up in the Lisbon area here as we head towards the top of the hour and beyond. Couple of little cells down to our south. Nothing here that really grabs my attention right now in terms of any potential rotation or anything like that. And here's our kind of trio of warned storms closer to I-70. Cambridge getting a good thunderstorm right now. Southern Tuscarawas County from New Philly on south, especially down towards Port Washington, Newcomerstown. Probably some hailstones and some gusty winds with this. Now for us in our TV viewing area, I could see where especially this northern storm might track towards southern Columbiana County eventually. This more southern activity is likely going to miss our viewing area to the south and track closer to Steubenville and eventually over towards the Pittsburgh area and maybe as far north as southern Beaver County in Pennsylvania, but I kind of doubt it's any sort of a problem for our TV viewing area, which of course is this area right here. We cover Columbiana, Mahoning, and Trumbull in Ohio, and Mercer and Lawrence in Pennsylvania. Those are our core counties. Now, of course, we talk about the weather in adjacent counties. That's, if our weather's coming from Portage County or Geauga County, we have to talk about those counties as well. But our core television market is 5 counties, 3 in Ohio, 2 across the state line into Pennsylvania. All right, been talking for well over an hour and a half. The throat gets a little dry.
I give you props, Eric, for doing that.
I'm not sure what my record is, Gavin, but I've had live streams that have gone a few hours at least before. The nice thing about our viewing area is it's pretty small. If you're a meteorologist, if you're a TV meteorologist in a viewing area like Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Columbus that covers a dozen or more counties, they have it even rougher. We thankfully cover a fairly small geographical area, so the amount of time we have to spend covering severe weather in any individual instance tends to be lower than some of our bigger market neighbors off to our south and west and to our north.
Yeah. I'll give you a little relief right now. I'll talk about the thing that you've been mentioning for a couple of times, how places in Trumbull County, places in northern Mercer County might be out of the fray. You've called them all clear, and that's as temperatures have fallen down. I mean, the good thing is you're seeing a lot of that rain right now in Mahoning County and southern Trumbull County. That's acting to drive those temperatures down from the 70s. We saw a 74-degree reading at the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport, which, by the way, ties a record, a 43-year-old record. Now, as of the 2:40 observation at the airport, we're down to 64 degrees, which is, a big ingredient, a huge ingredient in making these thunderstorms and creating that instability is you need a lot of heating at the surface to create that unstable air. You don't have that as much when you have temperatures in the 60s versus when you have 70s. And with rain that's moving through Mercer County now, and will be progressing to the northeast through Mahoning County into Mercer County, you're going to see those thermometers go down, and that area where people might be all clear is going to start to increase in the next couple of minutes. So good thing to see a lot of this rain.
Yeah, this rain-cooled air, I think, is going to shut down the severe weather risk pretty quickly in Mahoning County and in southeastern Trumbull as well. So pretty much in the clear at this point from any severe weather risks this afternoon. If you're watching us from Canfield, out towards Berlin Center, up towards Austintown, Niles, Warren, over towards Sharon, the far western end of Mercer County, where a pretty good storm moved through just a little while ago, we're pretty much at this point going to give the all clear in terms of severe weather risks this afternoon. We need to hang in there a little while longer and pay attention to the weather a little while longer in eastern Mercer County with one hefty storm crossing I-79 right now. And we're not out of the woods just yet, certainly south and east of Youngstown with one warning still out in southeastern Lawrence County, and still a couple of perky storms in Columbiana County. This one probably still trying to produce a little bit of hail coming into the Lisbon area right now. So heads up there, and especially just north of there. And then we still have to, for a while longer, keep an eye on this activity, especially this polygon right here, because this may graze our southern areas here as we head into the 3 o'clock hour. This is a warning that's near the Cambridge area right now, southern Tuscarawas County. So not going to be out of the woods for a little while longer because we have to watch that one as well. Here's our one warning polygon that's still active in our TV viewing area. It is around Elwood City, the core of the storm right now, and I think this is still producing at least half an inch hail, perhaps up to an inch around the Elwood City area right now, and that is considered to be severe hail if it is 1 inch in diameter or larger.
Still focusing on that little bit of rain in central Columbiana County moving towards the northeast. You were talking about Lisbon, Hanoverton areas that saw that rain, and we're seeing some pretty decent signatures, seeing some reports of thunder and lightning on the radar right now. That's moving towards the northeast, could impact towns like Columbiana, Fairfield over the next couple of minutes. Certainly something to watch there. Not expecting any major crazy impacts, at least in the immediate term, but something to look forward to at least.
Yeah, you're probably going to hear some thunder here in Columbiana if you haven't yet, from this cell approaching from your south and west. And I just noticed, Gavin, there was one mention in NWS chat of a rotating wall cloud over in Butler County.
Okay.
Did he post a map, or what did he post? He just posted the location.
Seems like that's coming from... Oh, yeah. That has to do with the storm down in Beaver County going into Lawrence County, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
So in our NWS chat room, someone posted there was a pronounced wall cloud in Butler County, Pennsylvania. Now, Butler County is the county east of Lawrence. That's this county over here. And so there's Lawrence County over here. This is Butler County, and he's reporting a wall cloud with our warned storm over the Elwood City area. A wall cloud sometimes is a precursor to a funnel cloud and eventually a tornado. A funnel cloud can be a precursor to a tornado, but the first thing that sometimes is seen is a wall cloud, a lowering of the cloud base, If that wall cloud starts to rotate a little bit, a rotating wall cloud never a real good thing, and so someone is posting about that possibility. So definitely need to watch for that. Let me bring up the Pittsburgh velocity data here and real quickly look at what it is showing. This is the main Pittsburgh radar, and I don't see anything in this data to suggest rotation. This is the more short-range Pittsburgh radar, the radar site. It's called the terminal radar. It's out at the airport, and it's good for real stuff that's real close to the radar site. This is getting a little bit far from that radar source, and again, nothing here is real discernible in terms of any rotation. But at the very least, I think we're seeing some pretty big hailstones right now from Elwood City on east in the far southeastern corner of Lawrence County. So right here, there's the latest reflectivity scan. Right here, the southeastern handful of miles of Lawrence County, you might be seeing some inch to almost inch and a half in diameter hail out of this. This is the same storm that perked up in eastern Tuscarawas County and produced some hailstones over towards Carrollton. There was a downturn or downtick with that storm as it moved through southern or central Columbiana County, and then it perked up again crossing the state line over into Pennsylvania, and they issued a new warning for it. A severe thunderstorm warning runs until 3:15 with that. All right, we're getting a new warning, am I seeing? New warning for Columbiana County.
Oh, yeah, that's the storm coming from the south and west of us.
All right, so the Weather Service office in Pittsburgh just issued a severe thunderstorm warning. It's a big, long polygon. It starts in Tuscarawas County, close to Uricksville, and extends all the way into Columbiana County, or right there. It's basically the same areas that were under a warning polygon a little while ago from that storm that moved out of Carroll County. So the same places almost, Saleenville area primarily. You are under a severe thunderstorm warning now until 3:30 because of this storm that's coming out of Tuscarawas County into southern Carroll County right now. Some hail with this. Looks like this is, right now, it's a little more of a wind producer than a hail producer. Might be some pretty stout winds east of New Philly right now. Route 39 takes you out of New Philly over towards Sherrodsville, and there might be some pretty stout winds coming into Sherrodsville right now. Show you that with the Pittsburgh velocity data here. We see these brighter blues right here. These may be wind gusts of 60 or 70 miles per hour. Now, this is pretty far from the radar site, so we're probably sampling the storm pretty far up in the storm. But nonetheless, some pretty strong winds, even if those numbers are a little inflated because of the curvature of the Earth, the radar beam as it leaves the radar site gains elevation. So the farther you are away from the radar site, that beam samples things up in the air higher and higher. And all the way out into eastern Tuscarawas County, western Carroll County, you're pretty far at that point from the Pittsburgh radar source. And so you have to take a little bit of the raw data a little bit with a grain of salt sometimes when you're that far away. Closer to home, again, we're about to give you the all clear. I think we can pretty much do it at this point if you're watching us from most of Mahoning County, all of Trumbull County, a good chunk of Trumbull as well, with the exception of maybe the far northeastern corner of Mercer. We still have this storm that is yet to get off the playing field. It's just east of I-79, but it'll be out of Mercer County here by the top of the hour, here at 3 o'clock, or just after the top of the hour. Really, it's just, at this point, it's Columbiana and Lawrence counties that we are concerned with a new warning polygon just issued. Severe thunderstorm warning until 3:30 for the southwestern corner of Columbiana County because of a pretty stout thunderstorm coming out of Tuscarawas County into Carroll County. Probably some pretty strong winds with this. And we have our other warning polygon for far southeastern Lawrence. This is more of a hail threat with this, but it's almost out of Lawrence at this point. A few more minutes, and it will be out of Lawrence and into Butler County. This, I think, has been producing some pretty good hailstones in the southeastern corner of Lawrence County from Elwood City on to the east. But again, it's just about out of Lawrence County and therefore just about out of our television viewing area. All right, so Fred down in Pittsburgh saying they are going to issue a warning for Mercer, I should say, with a little more wind kicking up. Boy, I gotta imagine it's just
about out there.
just the far northeastern part of Mercer.
Yeah, close to New Lebanon, French Creek, Deer Creek,
Mm-hmm.
those areas. So all in all, we're dealing with a couple of things now. Yeah, there's the warning that just popped up on your radar. That's until 3:45 in the afternoon. And yeah, like you said, just the northeastern corner of Mercer County. French Creek, New Lebanon, currently in the warnings. We have this warning. We have the one that just was issued for Columbiana County, the southwestern portion of Columbiana County, and then one that's one we've been tracking for a while, going into Lawrence County. They cut off a little bit of that warning recently, but that's about to leave our area of responsibility for now, about to move into Butler County there. So things have gotten a little bit more active in the last couple of minutes there.
Yeah, a couple of minutes. It took a little while, but things are perking up. That being said, we're going to be in the wind down phase, I think, before the 3 o'clock hour is through. Our warning in Lawrence County is just about out of Lawrence County. It's only far northeastern Mercer that's under a warning at this point, and it's far southwestern Columbiana that's under a warning at this point. This is the storm I'm most concerned with in the near term, because pretty good wind signatures with this right now coming out of Sherrodsville and Carrollton. This will be the second pretty heavy thunderstorm of the day for the Carrollton area, and probably eventually Salineville as well. And already in Salineville, independent of the storm that's actually warned, we actually have a couple of downpours in that Salineville to Highlandtown area around Route 39 in far southwestern Columbiana County. We also have a pretty good downpour, far sub-severe, but a pretty good downpour. Columbiana up towards New Springfield as well. So right from about the traffic circle in Columbiana on east towards Route 7, pretty good downpour there. So if you're traveling Route 7 from just east of Columbiana up through North Lima, eventually crossing the turnpike for a little while, a pretty good downpour for some folks out there. But that is sub-severe right now. Bring up that velocity data off the Pittsburgh radar again and sample our southern Carroll County situation. Again, pretty far from the radar source here, but nonetheless, when we start to see some blues on here, it gets our attention. We're sampling some wind gusts of 60, 70 miles per hour. Let me look at exactly how far up in the storm we are. Now the radar beam sampling that is about 4,000 feet up in the air. Not as high as some radar scans, but we're still at least at the 4,000 foot level, getting some wind speeds of 60 or 70 miles per hour. Now, thunderstorms can bring down energy from aloft, and so even though we have to take this with a little bit of grain of salt, it's not out of the realm of possibility, certainly, that we could be seeing some wind gusts in this neighborhood coming through the Sherrodsville, Leavittsville area, Leesville, around Route 212, around Atwood Lake in Carroll County. And again, this is the second pretty good thunderstorm of the day to move through this exact spot. And this is the storm that the warning polygon for it extends all the way to the east over into southern Columbiana County. That warning runs until 3:30. It includes Salineville and Summitville over towards Highlandtown. Again, just like the last warning polygon, not quite to Wellsville or East Liverpool, up to about Lisbon. Does not include Elk Run and Nagley and places like that. But eventually, maybe, those places will get a new warning. Also, pretty good, amount of lightning with this. If you're new to the way we display lightning, because we haven't had much lightning in recent months, we do display both positive and negative voltage lightning strikes on our radar display here. The negative voltage strikes have the kind of traditional lightning symbol, the plus signs. Lightning that has a positive voltage. All lightning is dangerous, whether it has a negative or positive voltage. But the positive voltage lightning strikes, well, they tend to be a little more dangerous. They tend to have a higher voltage. They tend to hit things on the ground a little bit more. And also a lot of positive voltage lightning strikes, when you see a lot of plus signs, that's often an indication that a storm is perking up. It's getting stronger. It's getting higher in the sky. A lot of times a big uptick in positive lightning strikes will even coincide with a storm that eventually produces a tornado. Not to say it's going to happen in this case, but sometimes that is the case. That big lightning, trend like that, if you will, for lack of a better word, can often be a precursor to something quite a bit more serious. So, yeah, we're seeing quite a bit of positive voltage lightning strikes coming into Carroll County. And again, for our viewers in southwestern Columbiana, that warning runs until 3:30 here at the bottom of the hour. One of our new things that we have at our disposal this year for severe weather season, and I'm sure you've seen us mention this on air a few times. We call it Neighborhood Net, and this is a network of weather flow tempest weather stations. These are weather stations in which the data is uploaded to the internet automatically, and we have access to it. And one of the things we can detect in with this data is lightning strike data. And just in the last hour, you can see a lot of our Columbiana County stations have picked up about 13 lightning strikes over the last hour. You can see the lightning strikes are definitely lower off to the north, a handful, yes. But the most pronounced lightning over the last hour over in Mercer County, 19, 20 almost lightning strikes, and then with our network of stations down into Columbiana County. So you may have seen us mention this a few times, the weather flow tempest weather stations. Lightning is just one of those things that we can display, and certainly we're going to be showing this more and more as we get into severe weather season here in 2026. We just debuted this not long ago here early in the year.
Another thing you can see from the tempest stations on our weather flow network is temperatures too, and you can actually see a pretty interesting, difference from northwest all the way to southeast from where that rain has really fell. I mean, lots of stations up in Trumbull County, they're seeing readings in the mid-60s where all that rain fell. Remember, we were up in the mid-70s today, but maybe portions of Lawrence County, a lot of 70s there, showing where not much of that rain has fallen over the last couple of hours. We're still seeing that daytime heating without much of the liquid, the dampening that really happens.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just another tool that you can use on these stations, and it's good. You could buy one of them yourselves.
You can buy a weather flow tempest weather station. We're actually going to be giving one away in a contest here as we head towards Ohio Severe Weather Awareness Week. Not this coming week, but the week after, I believe. It's Ohio Severe Weather Awareness Week. It's the week after next week. And we'll be running a contest, and we'll have more details on that coming up over the next week to 10 days. But as Gavin was just mentioning, where we have had not many raindrops today, it's still very warm, such as a lot of our stations in Lawrence County picking up 70s. Where we have that rain-cooled air, though, it's in the 60s. Still warm for this time of the year, but definitely cooler than earlier today. And where we have that more stable, cooler air, the rain chances, the thunderstorm chances, the severe weather chances will definitely be lower from here on out. So we got a lot of tools at our disposal, and chief among them, of course, the radar. A lot of us are used to looking at TV weather people displaying radar data. Here's kind of the traditional radar data showing the warnings and also the precipitation. Of course, the brighter colors are heavier raindrops, harder rain rates, if you will. We can also display the wind data being picked up by these radar sources, and this may be particularly important for this warned storm that the polygon extends into southern Columbiana County. The radar is picking up on some pretty stout wind gusts now from about Carrollton on south in Carroll County, 50, 60 miles per hour or so. We're sampling the storm. The radar beam is hitting it a few thousand feet above our heads, but it may be somewhat representative, at least, of what is going on down at ground level. So the severe thunderstorm warning, there's good reason for that warning being out until 3:30 for a good chunk of Carroll County and then into southern Columbiana County as well. And this storm also is likely still producing some hailstones as well. I don't think it's as much of a hail producer as our earlier storm that impacted Carroll County, but this may pack more of a punch in terms of the wind than that first storm that we had earlier on this afternoon. Becoming a little more convinced that this is actually going to be the last storm that could impact our area. Maybe a little bit of a close call with the storm just south of there. May graze East Liverpool or somewhere like that eventually. But the one that will impact the most people in our TV viewing area, the only one left that I think will impact a lot of people, is this one. This warning that runs until 3:30. this cell down here, again, this may eventually end up somewhere near East Liverpool, or just to the south eventually. And then this one's probably to our south. And once we get through these couple of warning polygons here, or these couple of cells, once they're no longer a threat to our viewing area, I think a lot of us are pretty much going to be out of the woods for the rest of the day. This is something we've been advertising for a few days now, the severe weather risk being mostly mid-afternoon for us. We started out with a kind of a 1 to 6 p.m. window. We narrowed that to 1 to 5. Today we made it like 1:30 to 4:30, something like that. And, I think that's generally going to be the right idea. I think by 4:30 at the latest, we'll be pretty much out of the woods. If you can watch us on regular TV, cable or satellite provider, in our, we call it our television viewing area, I think, we got maybe an hour or at most an hour and a half to go, and then we should be in much better shape, and we can enjoy a nice sunny Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, things are going to get much better. Temperatures probably a little bit departed from what they were today in the 50s, but yeah, Sunday, Monday looking much drier. But on the point of things starting to come to an end, Eric, we got some chatter coming from the National Weather Service in Pittsburgh. They're starting to, well, if you've been here for the entire time, I know we were talking about tornado watches and how it covers a large area for a very long time, but then they start to trim it. They are thinking of starting to trim that tornado watch in some of the spots that are not really seeing any precipitation anymore. There's a couple counties far south of Columbus, close to the border of Kentucky and West Virginia, near Huntington, West Virginia, that are currently under a tornado watch, but they are going to start doing that trimming over the next couple of hours, which does corroborate what you said earlier on in this live broadcast, Eric, about how they, once it covers a large area for a long time, but once they start seeing that the impacts are not likely, a lot of the area is going to start to go.
Yeah, I think both the Cleveland and Pittsburgh Weather Service offices will start trimming over the next hour. Kind of the counties I circled here. I think Stark, Mahoning, Trumbull, Ashtabula, Crawford, Erie, probably down to Mercer, will be trimmed out of this watch sooner rather than later. And that process will, of course, continue as we head deeper into the afternoon, into the early evening for points south and east. If you were watching the stream a while ago now, we mentioned that the initial expiration time of the watch would be 8 p.m., but the reason why it's 8 p.m. is look how big this watch is. And so some of these areas in the far eastern side of the watch may be under the gun for severe weather all the way through early evening, but certainly on the northwest side, our threat will be pretty much over well before 8 o'clock this evening. All right, so let's kind of reset here. We're at 10 after 3. And I think we're in the clear at this point from severe weather. If you're watching us from just about all of Mahoning County, except maybe the southeastern part of Mahoning County, that should be about it. But elsewhere in Mahoning County, I think we're in the clear. We're in the clear in Trumbull County. I think we're pretty much in the clear in Mercer County as well. Still some rain, a couple of rumbles. But we're certainly not in the clear just yet in Columbiana County, probably parts of Lawrence as well. This is the storm that is most imminent. This is bowing out. I think there's a pretty stout wind signature developing with this as it comes out of the Carrollton area and bears down on Salineville in southwestern Columbiana County. There may be some hailstones with this as well, but this is less of a hail and more of a wind producer than the first storm that rolled through this same area. Some hail, yes. More concerned about the wind, which could gust to 50, 60 miles per hour. Wouldn't be surprised if they eventually have to put a considerable tag on this warning polygon. As if you missed our conversation earlier, the Weather Service will augment kind of base severe thunderstorm warnings with a tag sometimes to indicate in a little more detail the threats. Those tags range from considerable to destructive. Destructive being the most serious kind of severe thunderstorm warning. Sometimes they'll put a tornado possible tag on a severe thunderstorm warning for warnings that a tornado warning is not necessary for just yet, but may be trying to rotate. And on a higher end severe thunderstorm warning like this one may be becoming, a lot of times they will put at least a considerable tag on it. And it wouldn't shock me if eventually that got one of these tags, because I think there's some pretty stout winds coming east. Let's query the latest data here off the Pittsburgh radar source, and we're getting a little bit closer to the radar now, so we can rely on this data a little bit more than when the storm was a little farther away from the radar. And it's still pretty common, even though we're getting close to the radar source here, for the radar to be querying 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. At this part in Carroll County, we're about 2,800, 2,900 feet off the deck. And so that's lower in the sky, certainly, than 3,500 to 4,000 feet. So the storm is sampling the lower level, or the radar beam, I should say, is sampling the lower levels of the storm more than the mid levels of the storm. And therefore, we can rely a little bit more on the velocity data, the raw velocity data that is being returned to us. And so heads up, pretty good wind event coming your way, Salineville, Summitville, and maybe eventually parts of interior Columbiana County as well, especially south of Lisbon, and maybe from West Point, maybe eventually down towards East Liverpool. We have to watch out for this. And, speaking of the East Liverpool area, independent of this Warren storm, we have this hard downpour around Calcutta and heading down towards Laycroft and the East Liverpool area as well. This is a non-severe downpour. There's not a whole lot of lightning and thunder with this, a little bit, but not much. And I think they just began the process of trimming out the tornado watch. Let me bring that up.
Yeah, Cleveland canceled it for Mahoning and Trumbull in our area, and a couple of counties to our north and east and west as well.
Yeah, so as we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, they're going to start trimming, and the Cleveland office trimmed out Stark, Mahoning, Trumbull, Crawford, and Erie. Pittsburgh has not done so yet with Mercer, but won't be too much longer before they do that. They'll probably hang on to this watch for a while longer, though, of course, in Columbiana and into Lawrence, because we're not quite out of the woods, per se, in those areas. All right, so let's bring up our radar once again, and we're coming up on a quarter after the hour, 3:15, and we got to get through this cell right here, and maybe we'll have to keep watching this one right here, kind of east of Cambridge right now. That one might graze our far southern areas. Those are the two that we have to watch from here on out. Otherwise, I think our severe weather risk is pretty low in most of the area. We have some scattered downpours, certainly, but in the near term, southern Columbiana County is going to be our focus. Here's the radar. We're starting to see a little bit of a bowing structure with this, the kind of bulging out on the reflectivity data here. And so, this right here is probably coming with quite a bit of wind and some hailstones. There's probably some hailstones right here, just east or around Route 524, and coming across Route 39 from Mechanicstown on east, coming into the Salineville area here in the next 10 minutes or so. Do we have a forward speed on this? I assume it's probably like 50-ish.
It would be 55 miles an hour if this is the right warning.
So let's say
55.
55. All right. So let's put some clock times on this. Let's say at 55 miles per hour, something like this. So some approximate clock times here of this Warren storm's arrival. Again, don't take them literally, but just a ballpark estimate under the assumption that this is moving at about 55 miles per hour. Puts it into Salineville here in 5 minutes or so. Highlandtown in about 10 minutes-ish. Closer to Wellsville at the bottom of the hour, 3:30 or so. Glenmore, East Liverpool, Laycroft, places like that, as we head towards 3:35 to 3:40 or so. And then crossing the state line over into Beaver County, Darlington, South Beaver, by about a quarter till 4 or so. So again, some approximate clock times on this. This is moving northeast at about 50 to 55 miles per hour. Expect a pretty good burst of wind with this and some hailstones as well. The deep blues that we saw earlier on aren't as pronounced, but that being said, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're sampling the storm now a little bit closer to the radar beam, or the radar source, I should say. And so we're sampling lower in the atmosphere, and therefore the wind is probably not as strong as when we were sampling the storm at 4,000 feet or so, but still a 40, 50, even 60 mile per hour wind, a distinct possibility. I mentioned the official definition of severe weather for hailstones is an inch or larger. The official definition of wind, severe wind, is 58 miles per hour or greater. Not 60, but 58 miles per hour or greater. Don't ask us why it has to be 58. That's just one of those things. We like to be specific when it comes to. We have weird criteria sometimes when it comes to how meteorologists define things. So when it comes to wind, it's 58 miles per hour. A couple of warnings in western PA now out of our viewing area. One, this is Butler County on east, and the other is up towards Oil City and especially north of there. That was the warning that briefly clipped northeastern Mercer. Those are now east of our viewing area over into interior PA. Again, most concerned about this guy right here. Now, it's interesting they did not continue the warning for this cell coming out of Cambridge. I haven't watched that one as carefully, but I'm a little surprised there's not a new polygon for that one. Still looks pretty impressive. Interesting. Even though we don't have a polygon for this right now, I wouldn't be surprised if a warning has to be issued downstream as this comes out of the Cambridge area. And again, for that one, it may graze our far southern areas, may be a concern for the East Liverpool area eventually. In our viewing area, I kind of suspect that's about as far north as it'll be. That particular storm that's just east of Cambridge right now. Closer to home, though, this is the warning that is most imminent. The wind is coming into Salineville right now. Let's zoom all the way in. And the leading edge of the storm coming into Salineville right now, this is Route 39 right here. And in addition to the wind, where we're seeing the brighter reflectivity values here, no doubt there's probably some hailstones falling out of the storm. You can see the plus signs indicating positive voltage lightning strikes, a handful of these, indicating pretty stout updrafts, and positive voltage lightning strikes tend to have a higher voltage and be a little more dangerous than your standard issue negative voltage, if you will, lightning strikes. So this is a pretty stout looking, bow echo, if you will, coming into southern Columbiana County. It's probably going to track all the way across the southern tier of Columbiana County, maybe grazing the Lisbon area, maybe grazing the Elk Run area. And for the second time this afternoon, we might get a pretty good storm coming over towards Clarkson, and maybe just grazing the East Palestine area as well. This is the second storm that's kind of taking the same track over those areas. Speaking of East Palestine, real quickly, just want to zoom in on there. Pretty good downpour over East Palestine right now. And also one over into Beaver County. Before we come back into Columbiana County, just a reminder for those just jumping on the stream right now, we no longer are in the tornado watch in Mahoning County and into Trumbull County. We probably won't be for much longer in Mercer County. I think the severe weather risk has ended in those counties. We can give you the all clear if you're watching us from Mahoning County, Trumbull County, and Mercer County. If you're watching us from Columbiana County and Lawrence County, not in the clear just yet, especially in Columbiana County, especially the southern part of Columbiana County. This is a pretty good thunderstorm that we have to contend with as we head towards the bottom of the hour here. Salineville getting rocked pretty hard right now by hailstones and gusty winds. Here's the latest wind data off the Pittsburgh radar. Again, the brighter colors, those are stronger winds. I hit the wrong button there. Give me a second. Yeah, we're still sampling 50 to 60 mile per hour winds going through Salineville right now. That can certainly cause a ruckus and maybe cause any trampolines that are out to go flying. One of our favorite TV meteorologists in the country, James Spann, down in Alabama, he calls that the Alabama state bird when trampolines go flying in Alabama. It's always posting pictures of flying trampolines that get stuck in wires and on trees and things like that because they get left out. And trampolines are pretty easily picked up in strong winds. So the trampoline, the unofficial state bird of Alabama. If you're a weather nut, a weather weenie, you follow a lot of meteorologists online, even though Alabama's weather typically, of course, doesn't have much to do with our weather in Ohio and Pennsylvania. A lot of people follow James Spann because he's probably the most widely followed local TV meteorologist anywhere in the country, to be honest. And obviously he's been doing this forever and is a legend in our field. And so I just wanted to mention him. He's an inspiration for a lot of current meteorologists, a lot of future ones as well. That's the kind of guy that when he visits schools, no doubt there are a lot of people in those schools that are going to be meteorologists in 20 or 30 years because they got to meet James Spann, and that ignited their interest in the weather. All right, back here at home, strong thunderstorm with a warning on until 3:38 more minutes. I would suspect, unless we see a rapid downtick in the intensity of this, that a new warning polygon will need to be issued downstream for eastern Columbiana County, maybe parts of southern Lawrence, parts of Beaver as well. Not going to be surprised by that because this warning polygon runs for another 7 minutes until the bottom of the hour. And we're getting reports of trees and wires down around Big Beaver from the storm earlier on. That was the storm that brought some hailstones and some gusty winds over into the Elwood City area, down into Beaver County, and this is that storm right here as it's moved eastward into interior Pennsylvania, still producing some big hailstones, no doubt.
Yeah, it looks like we're getting hail reports of maybe about an inch or so starting to move into Butler County over there. Really, I mean, a lot of the storms that we're seeing, not just the one there, not just the one going into Columbiana County, but the one that's now into, I believe that's Forest County or Venango County. Seeing reports of around an inch or so there, and then we got a couple of that severe warm storm in the Wheeling area for West Virginia. Also seeing some decent hail reports there, close to a half an inch, maybe up to an inch in some locales as well. So a lot of these coming with hail. That's the big thing. Hail, even those destructive winds as well, which we mentioned. In order to get that up to that category, you need hail of an inch or so plus those winds of not 60, not 55, but 58.
Miles per hour.
Yep. So, but all eyes right now, certainly on the severe warm storm moving into Columbiana County right now.
Yeah, so this is in our viewing area. This is southern Columbiana County right here, and here we have Highlandtown. This moved through Salineville and Summitville. We'll give you the all clear here momentarily in Salineville, probably in the all clear at this point in Summitville, but heads up in Highlandtown. Make sure those loose outdoor objects are already secure. Run outside real quickly and then run back inside if you haven't secured those, because you could see a 50-plus mile per hour wind gust with this. And there's our new warning polygon that I just speculated on. It was just issued. It extends off to the north and east. Now, this new warning polygon runs until 4:15. It includes East Liverpool and surrounding areas in southern Columbiana County that missed the storm that went off to the north in the earlier on in the 2 o'clock hour. This is going to be a little bit more of a close shave for the greater East Liverpool area. East Palestine, not technically in this warning polygon. Close shave there. Parts of East Palestine are in it. Comes right up to about East Palestine, to be technical. And it encompasses a lot of Beaver County over in Pennsylvania, southeastern Lawrence as well. So that runs until 4:15. So I mentioned that a moment ago, that with the expiration at the bottom of the hour of our old warning polygon, we'll probably get a new one. Now, even though this warning runs until 4:15, again, look how big the warning is. I don't think the threat will last all the way until 4:15 in Columbiana County. It may last until 4:15 all the way over here, closer to Cranberry. But if you're watching us from East Palestine to East Liverpool, the risk with this warned storm is probably up until maybe 4 o'clock at the latest. Maybe not all the way until 4:15, probably more like 3:50 or something like that. So, again, this may have weakened a little bit the last few scans, but it's still probably producing some pretty stout winds. Let's query the velocity data here. Still seeing some blues on here. We're probably still seeing 45, 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts. So anyone over towards Rock Camp, anyone over towards Glenmore, Elk Run, Clarkson, eventually Calcutta, secure those loose outdoor items. You might lose power if these winds remain kind of strong. 50 plus mile per hour winds are a distinct possibility as this comes as this comes east. Just a real quickly querying or looking at the hail threat with us. I don't think there's a threat of large hail with this anymore. This is definitely more of a wind threat in southern Columbiana County. So while there might be some small hailstones in this, I would not expect them to reach severe criteria here in the near term at least. But a good gust of wind and certainly some heavy rain and some vivid lightning coming east towards parts of the Lisbon area, West Point, Rock Camp, and then eventually parts of the East Liverpool area and Wellsville as well. And once again, I know if you've been watching the stream for a while, I've been repeating myself, but you know how this works. A lot of people hop in and out of these streams, or maybe just join late. We've been streaming for over 2 hours now, and we've given the all clear to anyone north and west of the current storms. So the threat for severe weather is over for the day in Trumbull County, in Mahoning County, in Mercer County as well. We're not done just yet, though, in central and southern Columbiana County and central and southern Lawrence County. As you head off into northern Lawrence County, closer to New Wilmington, and up towards Interstate 80 especially, out of Lawrence County into Mercer County, I think you're done for the day in terms of the severe weather threat. The train tracks, if you will, for a little while longer are going to be right down in here. Route 30 and points off to the south. And yeah, it's going to be a busy few hours with storms down closer to Wheeling and Steubenville and in the Pittsburgh metro area as well. Been in our TV viewing area, and in our TV viewing area, we cover 3 counties in Ohio: Trumbull, Mahoning, and Columbiana. 2 in Pennsylvania, Mercer and Lawrence. The surrounding counties we talk about as well, but our core television viewing area is 5 counties. And in our 5-county viewing area, we have 2 counties that are still under the gun for a little while longer. That would be Columbiana, especially southern Columbiana, and Lawrence, especially southern Lawrence. The heaviest storm in our television market right now is this one right here that has a warning on it. Coming into Rock Camp right now with a big gust of wind and some heavy rain and some vivid thunder and lightning. If you're watching this closer to East Liverpool, Glenmore, Calcutta, make sure those outdoor items are secured. Trash cans, trampolines. You know, we're coming out of winter, so I know it's not like in summer when a lot of people have a lot of stuff out, lawn furniture and trampolines and things like that. But if you do have anything outdoors that is unsecured, now would be a good time to bring it into the garage or wherever you need to bring it to make sure it doesn't blow away, because yeah, some pretty good winds I think are coming your way.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the structure of that severe warned just a little cell there. I mean, it's been persisting that way, that little bow-shaped, almost that arcing shape of that. That's a pretty good indicator of the strong winds that it holds. That's one reason why we do see those the severe storm warning with those gusts of up to 60 miles an hour. And again, it is going to start to cross into over the Ohio-PA border in the next couple of minutes, but that is before it starts to impact, like you just mentioned, Wellsville to the south, Rock Camp, even into Calcutta, and over towards Ohioville as well, seeing a decent bit of lightning, and then also, like we mentioned in the last couple of minutes, some hail from that as well.
Yeah, it's a pretty good thunderstorm. Now, earlier on I speculated that they might have to put a considerable tag on this. I no longer think they will do that, at least while it's still in our viewing area. This is a strong thunderstorm, but it's just not as strong as it was maybe 15 or 20 minutes ago when it was back in Carroll County. There's a little bit of a shield, if you will, in central Columbiana County today. We've had a couple of storms weaken at least somewhat, as if they've come into the central part of the county. This is not a weak storm, though. It's a pretty strong storm. It's just not quite as strong as it was earlier on this afternoon. So once this gets through Columbiana County and into Beaver County, and we'll track it through parts of southern Lawrence County as well, the upstream activity does not have any warnings on it currently. A few of these cells, down here still look pretty stout, but they don't have any warnings on them. And so, we'll babysit those for a little while. But and while this one right here may still be a concern for a little while, maybe towards East Liverpool, these 2 down here are going to miss our viewing area to the south. And that'll be about it in terms of a severe weather risk today. I want to thank everyone who's been joining us. We started this live stream a little after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Meteorologist Gavin Sandell has been here for, going on 12 hours now or something like that? Welcome to severe weather season. And so I want to thank Gavin for staying over this afternoon and helping me out on a Saturday. It never ceases to amaze me how many severe weather events happen on the weekends when I'm typically not scheduled to work. But hey, that's part of the job, part of the game. Doesn't matter what day it is, got to be here, helping to keep everybody safe, no matter what time of day, no matter what day of the week it is. I've been here in the middle of the night. I've been here on Saturdays. I've been here on Sundays, holidays. It doesn't matter.
Mother Nature never sleeps.
Mother Nature never sleeps. It is just funny how often that works out, though.
Yeah.
How disrespectful of your own schedule Mother Nature tends to be. Real quickly, I mentioned a while ago our WeatherFlow Tempest network can show lightning strikes, and I just want to show the most recent lightning strike data. This is in Mahoning County over the last hour, 20 to 30 strikes, but I'm going to pan down here into Columbiana. We're up to 30 to 40 lightning strikes being detected by a lot of these personal weather stations down here in Columbiana over the last hour. And when we look back over 3 hours, because we can look just not at the last hour, but the last 3 hours as well. And so here's the data for the last 3 hours. Not much different in Mahoning County, but yeah, we're into the 40s and 50s now for the last 3 hours, the amount of lightning strikes being detected. These weather stations, these WeatherFlow Tempest weather stations, they're all in one weather stations. They don't have moving parts. They don't have a spinning anemometer. They don't have a little tipping bucket rain gauge. It's all kind of one big thing. And the rain is measured via haptic feedback as raindrops hit the top of the weather station. The weather station then measures how much rain fell, judging by the speed of the raindrops, how big they are. They also have lightning detectors in them. These things can detect lightning, I believe it's up to 30 miles away. And so, I have owned one of these stations for many years, and it's great as we get into severe weather season to be able to get an alert, push to my phone, push to my watch, whatever. Hey, your station detected lightning. On a day like today, it's been vibrating my watch pretty frequently. A lot of lightning strikes down there where I live in Columbiana County, and if you own a WeatherFlow Tempest weather station elsewhere in our viewing area, no doubt you've been getting some lightning alerts. More today than we've gotten in many months. That is for sure. So I think, Gavin, we're gonna watch this guy cross far southeastern Columbiana and maybe impact southeastern Lawrence. That may be about the last hurrah for us having to cover potential severe weather today.
I think that's very fair. I mean, on the back end, west of that severe thunderstorm warning, you do see a lot of yellows there, but most of that is just it doesn't look too severe.
Yeah.
The structure just isn't there. I'm struggling to think of the word that you used to describe that, those non-severe rainstorms. Yeah, exactly where you're circling right there.
Kind of run-of-the-mill or garden variety.
Garden variety.
It's more rain and rumbles, if you will. It's just rain and occasionally some lightning, but probably not much wind and certainly no severe weather threat with a lot of that area just circled. That includes New Philly, down to Cambridge, areas that got rocked pretty hard by some storms earlier on. Now it's just rain and rumbles. Again, the feel of the day, aside from the trees being bare, it feels a little more like a summer day, right? We got into the 70s. Now we have rain and rumbles in some spots in the afternoon. Daylight saving time is coming tomorrow.
Sure is.
So our sunset tomorrow evening will be at like 7:20 or whatever time it is. Yeah. And so the vibe is definitely not like early March typically is in many respects.
Yeah, I've been talking about temperature a lot this live stream. I'll say it again. We tied at least a record at the Youngstown Warren Regional Airport, a 43-year-old record. There's also been records broken across much of the area south of us. I know Pittsburgh, they broke a record. Du Bois out in west central Pennsylvania, they also broke a record. And further down the Ohio River, you got to go to Wheeling, West Virginia. They also broke a record. And it's not just today. Once we get out of this severe weather, we could see some more record-breaking warmth going into Tuesday, and possibly before we get some rain on Wednesday, even more severe weather. My forecast there, right up to the records there, close to 70 degrees both days. So we're certainly, with daylight saving time happening at 2 a.m. tomorrow, it just feels like the changes there after how cool and snowy our winter was there.
Yeah, to come out of this winter especially, it was a long winter and starting to think more and more about spring. And Gavin just mentioned, in case you didn't hear him, depending on what stream you're watching, we've got another potential severe weather threat coming up on Wednesday. This is the long-range severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center today, and they have a long tongue, if you will, of a risk defined of severe weather Wednesday. That's with the next cold front. That's the front that's going to more semi-permanently, at least, knock back our temperatures as we head towards late next week. But Wednesday could be a day in which we're, on the lookout for strong to severe thunderstorms in this area right here. So that'll be the next time we do this, potentially. All right, so here's a look at our radar. We have one warning on the board here in our viewing area. It is for southeastern Columbiana County. If you're watching us from the Calcutta area, heading up towards Clarkson, Spruce Vale, pretty good downpours here, gusts of wind as well. Looking at the latest velocity data off the Pittsburgh radar source, this data is not as impressive as it was earlier. That's a good thing. Some gusty winds, no doubt, but we're not querying the 50 to 60 mile per hour winds as routinely as we were when this storm was over western Columbiana County, and especially over into Carroll County as well. And this warning polygon runs until 4:15 technically, but look at how big the polygon is. They'll still be under the gun until maybe 4 o'clock or so, close to 4:15 from Beaver Falls on east, but we're just about out of the woods from the severe weather risk in southeastern Columbiana County, probably by 3:45, 3:50, from Calcutta on northward through Beaver Creek State Park and heading up towards East Palestine as well. And again, we have no warnings upstream, so we'll be able to give the all clear to our entire viewing area, we think, by 4 o'clock or so, I think at the latest, maybe 4:15 for far southeastern Lawrence County. That should be about it. Overall, my impressions of the day, now that we can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, I would say today I wouldn't call it underperformed. We've had some pretty stout thunderstorms across the region, but thankfully in our viewing area at least, we haven't had a lot of true severe weather reports. That could change, once the rain stops and people get out and, oh, look, there's a tree limb down over there somewhere, and we may get some reports. But we haven't gotten in real time a lot of reports of power outages and tree limbs down and that sort of thing in our TV viewing area. We've had a scattering of reports elsewhere in eastern Ohio and western PA, but not a lot in our true viewing area.
On the point of power outages, I just took a quick look at. That's one of the things we're very fortunate about, that we haven't had too many. I'd say about probably 700-800 combined within our 3 Ohio counties. Not too much more within Pennsylvania either. Within Mercer and Lawrence, just about 100, and I wouldn't be surprised if those were due to other issues too, and not just counting the storm. So less than 1,000 people out of power within the valley, even with these severe storms with some wind components as well. That's a pretty good thing.
Pretty good outcome today. The power outage numbers have been pretty reasonable, and the number of severe thunderstorm warnings, I would say, has been maybe on the lower end of expectations. Considering, level 2 risk and a 5% tornado risk defined by the Storm Prediction Center today, including a hatched area over the region today, which is a sign or a forecast product that they issue when the chance of a stronger tornado is especially elevated. Considering all those things, I would say, we came out relatively easy with this episode today. Again, we're not quite in the clear just yet, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. The strongest of our warned storm is now crossing the state line. It's right over the state line, essentially, coming out of Columbiana County and into Beaver County, Pennsylvania. So heads up again, if you're watching us, this live stream from Beaver County. I know we have some people who pay attention to our stuff in adjacent counties, because while they may not live technically in our viewing area, they might work in our viewing area, or vice versa. They might live in our viewing area but work elsewhere, or things like that. So I know Beaver County, Pennsylvania is a place that people around here sometimes care about, and for the second time today, a pretty good thunderstorm is going to roll through, especially the northern parts of that county: Darlington, Chippewa, Beaver Falls, Big Beaver, and in Lawrence County, Elwood City. I think you have a chance of getting clipped pretty nicely by the storm as well, after having a pretty good hail event earlier on this afternoon. Again, just to reiterate for those who are just tuning in, 3:42, and we're in the clear now in western Columbiana County, all of Mahoning County, all of Trumbull County, all of Mercer County. You're in the clear from severe weather. You can go about your business for the rest of the day today and not be concerned about severe thunderstorm impacting your location. We'll be in the clear probably by the top of the hour in, I would say, just about all of Columbiana County. And it may be until maybe a quarter after 4 or so until we can give Lawrence County completely the all clear, particularly the far southern areas around Elwood City and points east over towards I-79. But then that should be about it, and we can enjoy the rest of the weekend. Again, our forecast for Sunday is less eventful. Clouds will break for plentiful sunshine for the first day of daylight saving time. We can enjoy a beautiful first late sunset of daylight saving time, and a gorgeous day coming up on Monday as well. So some things to look forward to after a pretty busy Saturday afternoon. We'll just do a quick radar tour of the general region. We have one warning that's down here closer to I-70, West Liberty. Probably a few hailstones and some gusty winds with that one. Our other warning polygon, aside from the one that's in our viewing area, we have actually a couple of warning polygons to the east. This is now well to our east. In interior Pennsylvania, closer to I-80. Some hailstones closer to Clarion. You get into pretty hilly terrain if you've taken I-80, of course, from our area eastward into Pennsylvania. It becomes really hilly in a hurry over there, and that drive along I-80 is no fun a lot of times in the winter with snow squalls and snow showers. It no doubt is a little challenging today with some thunderstorms nearby. A couple of thunderstorms near far northern Pennsylvania as well. Some of these are getting set to cross the border over into New York State. And again, just recapping for our viewing area, we're going to give you the all clear here in a couple of minutes in Columbiana County. Still pretty good gust of wind and some lightning and thunder and some downpours from East Palestine down towards Ohioville. This is coming into Beaver County. And are they trimming more of the tornado watch?
Yeah, they trimmed 3 counties in south central Ohio.
Yeah. And real quickly, while we are mentioning it, the tornado watch that was originally in effect for our entire viewing area is now technically still in effect in Columbiana, Mercer, and Lawrence, but that'll be discontinued pretty shortly in those counties, and they've continued to trim the western edge. So all the I-77 counties, Guernsey, Noble, Tuscarawas, up towards Stark, all those counties are now no longer in the tornado watch. And while you're technically in the watch still in Columbiana County, Beaver County, Lawrence County, Mercer County, until 8 o'clock, to be honest, your threat will be over by 4 o'clock or so at the latest, and the Weather Service will start trimming those counties out of the watch. Real quickly, query the storm reports, because we've been talking, Gavin and I, about the lack of big severe weather reports in our TV viewing area. Here's some of the reports that have been relayed by the Weather Service today. Report of tree damage over into Carroll County around the Carrollton area. Over into Lawrence County, a couple of reports of tree damage here. This one around Elwood City was from that storm earlier on this afternoon, 2:45. This is about an hour ago. Siding off of a home was ripped off near Koppel. Closer to Portersville. Tree damage on Red Bush Brush Trail at right at 3 o'clock. So there have been some reports, but you can see the number of reports when I zoom out. It's not crazy. It's not super high. And that is what we like to see. All right, so with that being said, we're coming up here at 3:45. The warning has been discontinued for Columbiana County. Still in effect for northern Beaver County and southern Lawrence County. We're going to hang with you for another maybe 5 minutes here on the stream as this continues, perhaps bringing some gusty winds to far southern Lawrence County into the Elwood City area. And then I think at that point we'll discontinue our live stream after we're going to come up on 3 hours here at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock. The risk for severe weather elsewhere in our viewing area pretty much over at this point, with just some rain and some rumbles here and there. Right now, still some pretty prolific lightning strikes. Even though the storm itself, the heart of the wind threat, is now well to the east, still some lightning strikes from East Palestine on south. Still, I'm sure, some loud thunder in a lot of places, but the true risk of severe weather in terms of wind is now well to your east, closer to Darlington, and coming into Elwood City here as it crosses Route 376 and comes into Elwood City here before too much longer.
In the time that we still have, Eric, I wanted to bring up a question that a viewer put in our live stream chat. He wanted to ask about, after we get offline, after this last severe thunderstorm warning comes to end in Lawrence and Beaver counties, what happens after this? What does the rain do? Does it linger? Does it continue? Could we see some more thunderstorms around our area? or they want to know, should they keep their rain shoes on, their rain boots on?
So the question being asked in one of our comment sections is, what about the forecast after the severe weather risk this afternoon? I think there can be some showers around because the cold front itself is actually still off to our west. And we won't be clear from rain totally until that front crosses our area mid-evening, but I think the severe weather threat will be non-existent at that point. Maybe a few showers around through, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then, we should be in the clear from there on out. So even looking at the radar here in the short term, as we go towards the 4 and 5 o'clock hours, if you need to walk the dog or do anything else outdoors here before sunset this evening, bring up the radar here again. There's still some raindrops out there. They'll probably be most numerous here through the 4 o'clock hour, and then there may not be much 5, 6 o'clock up through about sunset or shortly thereafter. Then by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock this evening, a couple of showers may reemerge, but yeah, you're still going to need the wet weather gear. You still may be dodging a few raindrops if you'll be walking the dog or doing anything else before dinner time this evening. Here in the 4 and 5 o'clock hours, I would suspect, especially down into Columbiana County, it's going to rain for a little while longer. But even north of there's some light raindrops still around parts of Mahoning County, Trumbull County, and even into Mercer County as well. So good question from whoever asked that on our social medias. And so real quickly here, just one more check-in on our warning, and then we're going to leave you on the live stream for the day. This will bring a gust of wind and probably a few hailstones into southern Lawrence County, so heads up around the Elwood City. Although at this point I think maybe the hail threat has lowered quite a bit. Again, it's mostly just a wind threat. With this Boeing section of this line right here. This is coming through Beaver Falls and Big Beaver right now, coming through Elwood City and eventually over towards Portersville and Route 19 and Interstate 79 over there. And that will be, I think, the last warning that will impact our television viewing area. So if you've been following along all afternoon, whether you've been watching the stream for a couple minutes or a couple hours, we want to thank all of you for paying attention to our coverage this afternoon. We really appreciate you relying on us to keep you safe when severe weather threatens. This is the first of, I'm sure, many severe weather threats that we'll have over the next 4, 5, 6 months. And so thanks to Gavin for sticking around and being sleep deprived this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Eric Wilhelm, signing off for this Saturday afternoon.